Imagine standing at the edge of the unknown, where history bends and reality blurs. For centuries, archaeologists have uncovered relics from ancient civilizations, remarkable artifacts that defy explanation and challenge everything we thought we knew about the past. From strange artifacts buried deep in the earth to monumental structures that defy modern engineering, these discoveries are not just mysteries. They are windows into a world that may have been far more advanced and far more enigmatic than we ever realized. What secrets do they hold? Join us as we journey through 3+ hours of mind-bending revelations that continue to baffle the world's leading scientists. The answers may be closer than you think. Perched on a rocky hill in the heart of the Rhodope Mountains, the archaeological complex of Perperikon seems almost to rise out of the landscape itself, as though it were part of the earth's very bones. Its weathered stones, partially obscured by time, stretch across the ridge, bearing the weight of centuries of secrets. The wind whispers through the ruins, a constant presence in a place where history itself feels alive, breathing, shifting, hiding. Dating back to around 6000 BC, Perperikon was once a thriving sacred city and a center of religious activity. In its prime, it was believed to be a sanctuary devoted to Dionysus, the god of wine, fertility, and ecstasy. The complex, sprawling across several terraces, is dominated by an imposing hilltop acropolis, a place that, even in ancient times, offered sweeping views of the surrounding valleys. But it was not only the beauty of the landscape that drew the people of the past here. Perperikon was built on a site believed to hold extraordinary power, a place where the earth itself was thought to speak. Among the stone temples, sanctuaries, and vast courtyards, one of the most striking features is a large, mysterious altar, carved directly into the rock. It is said to have been used for rituals, possibly for sacrifices to the gods, but its exact purpose remains unclear. Some believe it may have been the site of ancient astronomical observations, a place where early civilizations studied the heavens, aligning the stones with celestial events. It's a theory that draws from the evidence of other megalithic sites across Europe, where ancient people constructed monuments to mirror the stars above. Could the people of Perperikon have been doing the same? Or was this sacred site something more? As excavations at Perperikon have progressed, researchers have uncovered a wealth of artifacts, pottery, jewelry, and tools, offering glimpses into the daily life of its inhabitants. Yet, for all the evidence of a bustling society, the true purpose of the city remains elusive. Was it purely a religious center, as many historians suggest, or was there something more? In ancient times, power and religion were often deeply intertwined. The wealthy elites of Perperikon could have wielded significant influence, shaping not only the lives of their citizens, but also the course of regional politics. There is speculation that the city was once a hub for trade, a crossroads of cultures and ideas, from the distant reaches of Greece to the shores of Palestine. But it is not only the artifacts that leave a sense of wonder. There are the unexplained elements, those features of Perperikon that defy easy categorization. Take, for example, the so-called oracle chamber. Hidden beneath the earth, this mysterious underground space was likely used by priests or oracles to communicate with the divine. The chamber is remarkable not only for its design, but for the acoustics it produces. Visitors to the site have reported hearing strange, otherworldly echoes within its walls, sounds that seem to reverberate in ways that are difficult to explain. Could these acoustics have been intentionally designed to create an atmosphere of divine communication? Or is it possible that the ancient inhabitants understood something about sound, vibration, and energy that we have yet to rediscover? There are also the persistent rumors about Perperikon's connection to lost knowledge, secrets passed down through the ages, hidden by the priests who guarded them. Some have suggested that the site was not merely a place of worship, but a repository of forgotten wisdom. Could there be more to this ancient city than what we have uncovered? Is it possible that something remains buried beneath the layers of time, something that has yet to be discovered? As the excavation continues, the city reveals more and more of its secrets, but it still holds many mysteries. Could the stone carvings, the alignments of the structures, or the placement of the altars be part of a greater puzzle that we have not yet solved? Did the ancient people of Perperikon possess knowledge that, if understood, might change the way we view our own history? For now, Perperikon stands as a reminder that even in the ruins of the past, there are questions that remain unanswered. What hidden truths lie beneath the surface? And perhaps more importantly, what knowledge has been lost to time, waiting patiently for us to find it? As we continue our journey through the hidden corners of history, we now turn our attention to a site that has long confounded archaeologists and historians alike, the ancient city of Dholavira. Located on the arid island of Kadir in the western part of India, Dholavira was once the heart of a sophisticated civilization whose achievements seem far ahead of their time. Today, it stands as one of the most significant and enigmatic archaeological discoveries of the Indus Valley civilization, yet its full story remains largely untold. What secrets might be buried beneath the windswept ruins? And what mysteries did its builders leave behind? The site of Dholavira is vast and striking, its monumental architecture cutting through the desolate landscape like a silent testament to the ingenuity of its creators. The city was constructed around 4500 BC, during the height of the Harappan civilization, and covers an area of over 100 acres. What makes Dholavira unique among other Indus Valley sites is the sheer scale and sophistication of its urban planning. The city was divided into distinct sections, including a citadel, a middle town, and a lower town, with massive walls separating each area. The layout of the city itself suggests a highly organized society with a deep understanding of urban design, water management, and possibly even astronomy. The most awe-inspiring feature of Dholavira is its complex system of water conservation. In a region that receives little rainfall and is often scorched by the sun, the ancient inhabitants of Dholavira developed a series of reservoirs, channels, and drainage systems that captured and stored water from seasonal rains. These reservoirs, some of which are still visible today, could hold up to 40,000 cubic meters of water, a feat that would have been essential for sustaining life in such a harsh environment. Was this mastery over water merely a reflection of the city's pragmatic needs? Or could there have been a deeper, symbolic significance to their water systems? Some speculate that water may have had ritualistic importance for the people of Dholavira, as it did in many ancient cultures. But while Dholavira's urban planning and engineering achievements are well documented, many aspects of the city's culture and daily life remain elusive. For example, the city's population, estimated to have numbered in the thousands, appears to have lived in relative harmony with the natural world, as evidenced by the careful design of the water management systems. Yet, despite the high level of organization, there are no signs of palaces or grand temples that one might expect from such a large and developed society. What drove these people to build such a monumental city without the usual markers of power or religious hierarchy? Was Dholavira a center of trade, a hub of commerce and culture, or did it serve another, more enigmatic purpose? One of the most intriguing elements of Dholavira is its extensive use of seals, some of which have been found in remarkable quantities at the site. These seals, small, square-shaped pieces of material inscribed with symbols, were a hallmark of the Indus Valley civilization, and they continue to baffle researchers to this day. Though similar seals have been found in other Harappan sites, the seals at Dholavira are notably different, with more intricate designs and a greater variety of motifs. Some of these symbols appear to represent animals, while others are more abstract, leaving room for speculation about their purpose. Were these seals used for trade and administrative purposes, or did they have a more mystical or religious significance? Could they have been tokens of power, symbols of authority, or even markers of divine favor? There are also the strange inscriptions found at Dholavira, etched into the stones of the city's walls. These inscriptions, believed to be an early form of writing, have yet to be deciphered. While some scholars argue that they were simply a means of communication or record-keeping, others believe they may represent something far more significant. Could these inscriptions be a form of ancient knowledge, possibly a code or a language that was intentionally hidden from future generations? And if so, what kind of information might they contain? The mystery of Dholavira's writing, along with the elaborate seals and symbols, hints at the possibility that the city's inhabitants may have been part of a much larger and more complex cultural network than we realize. But perhaps the most striking mystery of all is the sudden and unexplained decline of Dholavira. At its peak, the city was one of the most advanced and prosperous settlements in the ancient world. Yet, by around 1500 BC, the city was abandoned. The reasons for its decline remain unclear. Was it the result of climate change, a shift in the region's water supply, or perhaps a devastating invasion? Some theories suggest that Dholavira was caught in the turmoil of the collapse of the broader Harappan civilization, as other Indus Valley cities also fell into decline around the same time. Others speculate that the inhabitants of Dholavira may have moved away due to a series of internal conflicts or natural disasters. But whatever the cause, the abandonment of Dholavira marks one of history's great unanswered questions. Did the city's architects, engineers, and scribes leave behind a message, hidden within the seals, inscriptions, and the very layout of the city, that could explain its rise and fall? Or have we yet to unlock the true significance of Dholavira? As excavations continue, new layers of the city are revealed, and with them, new questions emerge. What are we missing? Is it possible that Dholavira's megastructures were not simply designed for practical purposes, but also to convey something deeper, something that could provide answers to the city's enigmatic story? As we step away from the ruins of Dholavira, one thing becomes clear. The city still holds many of its secrets close. What was once a thriving, advanced civilization now lies in silence, waiting to speak to those willing to listen. What might we yet uncover in the shadows of its walls, beneath the shifting sands of time? As we venture deeper into the shadows of ancient history, we arrive at a place where the earth itself seems to hold its breath, where the very landscape whispers of long-forgotten rites and rituals. Beneath the sun-drenched hills of Sardinia, hidden from the eyes of the casual traveler, lies one of the most mysterious burial sites in the Mediterranean, the Domus de Janas. These ancient rock-cut tombs, their names translating to Houses of the Fairies in Sardinian, are found scattered across the island, carved directly into the soft sandstone of the land. The tombs themselves, some dating back as far as 3000 BC, are as enigmatic as they are beautiful. Arched doorways, delicate carvings, and chambers that seem to emerge from the earth as if by magic. At first glance, they appear like modest caves, yet the care and artistry embedded in their design suggest a purpose far beyond that of mere shelter. As we approach one of the more famous tombs, the scene is almost otherworldly. The stone entrances, often shaped like miniature temples or doors to another realm, stand in stark contrast to the wild, untamed landscape around them. The air is thick with the scent of earth and ancient time, and the silence is profound, broken only by the distant murmur of wind across the hills. What were these tombs intended to signify? Why were they placed here, hidden away in the embrace of the island's rocky outcrops? The Domus de Janas are believed to have been created by the ancient Sardinian people, likely during the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. These tombs were often used for collective burials, and many of them are equipped with several chambers, connected by narrow corridors. Inside, the remains of the deceased were placed on stone benches or within the depths of small alcove-like niches, arrangements that suggest not just a physical resting place, but perhaps a spiritual one. Some of the most elaborate tombs are adorned with intricate carvings depicting geometric patterns, spirals, and even scenes that appear to represent the sun or moon. But despite their visual beauty and clear cultural significance, much about these tombs remains unresolved. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Domus de Janas is their connection to the broader spiritual beliefs of the people who constructed them. Who were these people, and what did they believe about death and the afterlife? The elaborate nature of the tombs suggests that the people who built them were not just concerned with preserving the physical body, but perhaps with ensuring the soul's journey into another realm. Could these tombs have served as gateways to a sacred world, one that was thought to be hidden just beyond the veil of life? There are numerous theories, of course. Some suggest that the tombs were built as part of a belief in ancestor worship. The people of Sardinia may have considered the deceased to be part of an ongoing, living community, still able to influence the lives of the living. Others propose that these tombs were places of ritual, where offerings were made to the spirits of the ancestors or the gods. Could the carvings found within the tombs represent a form of early writing, a symbolic language that linked the people of Sardinia to the divine? Or were they purely decorative, meant only to express the aesthetic sensibilities of an ancient culture? What is most striking, however, is the sheer number of tombs scattered across the island, suggesting that the practice of creating such burial sites was widespread. The region of Anglona, in particular, is known for its density of Domus de Janas, with entire valleys filled with rock-cut graves. This has led some archaeologists to speculate that these tombs were not just part of a local tradition, but part of a far larger, possibly island-wide ritual network. Yet, as many scholars point out, no written records from this time survive. All we have are the tombs themselves, silent witnesses to a world whose voices have long since faded. This absence of written evidence leaves room for speculation and intrigue. The alignment of certain tombs, for instance, suggests they may have been deliberately oriented with respect to the movement of the sun or the stars. Some have even proposed that these tombs might have served as celestial markers or observatories, a kind of ancient calendar that allowed the people of Sardinia to track the seasons or even predict astronomical events. Could these tombs, in their symmetry and design, be a reflection of a lost knowledge of the cosmos? Could their creators have understood the movements of the stars in ways we are only beginning to comprehend? There is also the matter of the fairy associations in the tombs' names. The Sardinian term, Domus de Janas, evokes images of mythical beings, fairies, spirits, or supernatural guardians. Local folklore tells stories of magical beings who live in the hills and mountains, and these tales have persisted through centuries. Could it be that the tombs were constructed in places believed to be inhabited by such spirits? Or is the association with fairies merely a modern interpretation, overlaying centuries-old myths on a mysterious past? The concept of fairies in Sardinian lore is complex, and their connection to the tombs hints at a belief system that transcended mere mortal understanding. A belief in entities that inhabited both the physical and spiritual worlds, blurring the lines between the living and the dead. Despite years of excavation, much of the symbolic meaning of the Domus de Janas remains hidden, and the theories surrounding them are as varied as the tombs themselves. Were these tombs purely functional, built simply as places to honor the dead? Or were they something more? Artifacts of a culture whose beliefs and practices are now lost to time. The intricate carvings, the careful placement, and the seemingly deliberate orientation of the tombs suggest that these were not simply burial sites. They may have been designed to reflect a worldview that saw death not as an end, but as a transformation, a passage into another world. For now, we are left with more questions than answers. Who were the people who built the Domus de Janas, and what were they trying to communicate through their carvings and rituals? Could there be hidden knowledge embedded within these tombs, waiting to be uncovered? Or have we, like so many before us, missed the point entirely, looking for answers where none were meant to be found? As the wind continues to sweep across the rugged hills of Sardinia, the Domus de Janas stand in quiet repose, their mysteries intact. What else might they hold? Secrets of the past, or perhaps whispers of a time and belief system we can only begin to imagine? As we continue our journey into the depths of history's darkest mysteries, we now arrive in Rajgir, a serene and often overlooked corner of India, a place where ancient walls stand not only as silent sentinels of a forgotten past, but as cryptic remnants of a civilization whose secrets have long been buried beneath the weight of time. The Rajgir Cyclopean walls are a striking feature of the landscape here, stretching across the rugged hillsides like an ancient puzzle, with blocks of stone so large and tightly fitted that it seems almost impossible that humans could have assembled them. Their sheer scale and precision raise questions that have yet to be fully answered, even after centuries of exploration and study. What purpose did these walls serve? Who were the builders, and how did they possess the knowledge to create something so remarkable? The walls, which encircle the hills of Rajgir in the Bihar region, are constructed from massive uncut stones, many of which weigh several tons. The blocks are so carefully shaped and positioned that they fit together without mortar, creating an almost seamless construction. These Cyclopean walls, named after the mythical giants of Greek mythology, known for their enormous strength and ability to craft such colossal structures, are a testament to the engineering prowess of their creators. But unlike the walls of other ancient civilizations, which were often built for defensive purposes or to mark the boundaries of cities, these walls at Rajgir remain a mystery. Some scholars believe the walls were part of an ancient fortified city, built to protect its inhabitants from outside threats. Others argue that the walls might have been part of a larger religious or ceremonial complex, with the massive stones symbolizing something far greater than mere construction. After all, Rajgir has long been a place of spiritual significance, closely tied to the Buddha and other religious figures who once walked its hills. But if the walls were built for defense, why such extraordinary effort? And why these particular stones, placed in such precise alignment, with no visible mortar holding them together? Was the purpose purely practical, or was there something deeper at play, something we may never fully understand? The historical context of Rajgir offers a tantalizing clue. The region has been inhabited for thousands of years and has played a crucial role in the development of several important civilizations. As early as the 6th century BC, it was a seat of power for the Magadha kingdom, one of the most powerful states in ancient India. It is also known for being a place of profound spiritual importance, as it is here that the Buddha spent several years meditating and teaching. The Cyclopean walls are thought to have been constructed during this period, perhaps as a defense for a city or an important religious site. However, unlike other known fortifications from this era, there are no records detailing the exact origins of the walls or the identity of their creators. The absence of written records only adds to the air of mystery that surrounds the site. In their most imposing sections, the walls rise nearly 30 feet high and stretch for several miles, cutting through the rugged terrain and seemingly following no particular pattern of natural topography. It's as though the builders sought to mold the land itself, shaping the earth with their hands, defying the contours of the landscape to create something that was both formidable and awe-inspiring. But how could they have done this with the tools available at the time? And what motivated them to create such an immense structure in the first place? Archaeologists have long debated the purpose of these walls. The mainstream explanation suggests that they were constructed for defensive purposes, to protect the city of Rajgriha, the capital of Magadha, from invading forces. but the sheer size and scale of the Cyclopean walls seem to defy this simple explanation. There were other, more accessible locations that could have served as defensive positions, so why this remote, difficult-to-reach hilltop? What was it about the geography of the area that made the location so valuable? Some researchers have proposed more speculative theories. Some suggest that the walls might have been part of an ancient astronomical observatory, aligned with celestial events. The stone blocks, arranged in the precise manner they are, might have served a ritualistic purpose, perhaps related to the cycles of the moon, sun, or stars. Could the builders have understood the movements of the heavens in ways that we are only beginning to uncover? Was the wall itself a sacred boundary, marking the divide between the earthly realm and the spiritual world? The location of the walls in Rajgir, tucked away in a valley surrounded by hills, with nearby hot springs and other geological features, has led some to speculate that the area held special significance in the minds of its builders. Could the walls have been constructed not just as a physical barrier, but as a symbol, a boundary between two realms? After all, the region was long considered sacred, and religious figures like the Buddha and Mahavira, the founder of Jainism, are said to have visited the area. Is it possible that the walls were built as part of an ancient religious tradition, to mark a sacred space where divine power could be accessed? Another intriguing possibility lies in the technology and techniques used to build the walls. Many of the stones used in their construction are far too large to have been moved by primitive human means. The precision with which they were cut and placed suggests the use of tools or methods that are not fully understood. Could there have been lost knowledge involved in their construction? An ancient technology that was somehow lost over time? Was there a method for moving and placing these massive stones that has since been forgotten? Or have we simply not yet discovered the full capabilities of ancient engineering? And then, there is the question of the wall's final purpose. Why were they abandoned? If the walls were indeed part of a fortification or city, why did they fall into disrepair? Could it be that the region's decline was tied to something more profound, something beyond human control? Was the disappearance of the wall's creators tied to environmental change, shifting political power, or some form of cultural or spiritual transformation? Even today, after centuries of study and exploration, the Cyclopean walls of Rajgir remain a testament to the mysterious past of the Magadha kingdom. They stand as a monument to a people whose lives, beliefs, and motivations are still largely unknown. As we walk through the remnants of the walls, the questions only deepen. What do these stones truly represent? What knowledge have we lost, buried in the dust of centuries? And as the winds sweep through the hills, carrying the whispers of time, it becomes clear that the walls of Rajgir are not just a physical structure. They are a riddle, waiting to be solved. Perhaps the most unsettling question remains: what if we have only scratched the surface? What other hidden meanings, lost technologies, or forgotten beliefs might be buried within these ancient stones, waiting for someone to uncover them? As we continue to delve deeper into the enigmatic corners of history, we now turn to a remote and haunting landscape, tucked away in the rolling hills of County Kerry on the west coast of Ireland. Here, amidst the serene beauty of lush green pastures and jagged cliffs, stand the Kerry stone forts, ancient structures that have long puzzled historians and archaeologists alike. These fortifications, scattered across the rugged terrain, are a testament to a time when stone was the only defense against the forces of nature and human conflict. But their purpose, design, and origin remain shrouded in mystery. The stone forts of Kerry, often referred to as cahers, are scattered across the landscape, dotted like forgotten markers of a world that has since faded into myth. Built primarily during the Iron Age, around 500 BC, these structures consist of massive stone walls, often circular or rectangular in shape, constructed without the use of mortar. The sheer size and scale of these forts are striking, walls that can rise up to 10 feet high, enclosing narrow, sometimes labyrinthine interiors. Some of these forts were used as strongholds, while others might have served as homes or places of ritual. Yet, despite their prominence on the Irish landscape, the true purpose of these stone enclosures remains unclear. Were they defensive outposts, sacred sites, or perhaps something more profound, a physical representation of a belief system we can only guess at? The most famous of these stone forts is the Perperikon, a particularly imposing structure nestled in the folds of the Slieve Mish Mountains. Here, the walls rise starkly against the sky, weathered but unyielding, as though the very rocks themselves are trying to preserve the secrets of their creators. The fort's layout is straightforward, yet its exact function continues to be a subject of debate. Was it a fortification meant to protect early Irish tribes from invaders, or could it have had a spiritual purpose, aligning with the ancient worship of the natural elements? Some speculate that the stones themselves may have been aligned with the stars, serving as a kind of celestial calendar, an astronomical device to track the changing seasons or the movement of the sun. In a similar vein, the Cahair of Ballyknockan offers another striking example of Kerry's ancient architecture. This particular fort is characterized by its multi-layered construction, with multiple concentric walls forming a kind of protective barrier. It sits perched on a hill, offering a commanding view of the surrounding valley. But what were these forts protecting? Was it a community, or perhaps something more sacred, something whose significance we've yet to comprehend? What we do know is that these stone forts were not isolated. They are part of a much broader network of ancient structures that once dotted the Irish landscape. From the elaborate ring forts of the Celtic period to the less documented but no less intriguing stone forts of the Bronze Age, these sites suggest a society that was deeply connected to the earth, the sky, and the cosmos. The walls themselves are crafted with an unusual precision, each stone hand-selected and shaped to fit its place, often in a dry stone technique, without mortar. But what were the builders trying to communicate with these precise constructions? Mainstream historians have long argued that the Kerry stone forts were defensive structures, fortifications designed to protect inhabitants from marauding invaders or rival tribes. Some point to the fact that many of the forts are positioned on high ground, offering commanding views of the surrounding area as evidence of a strategic purpose. But this theory raises questions of its own. Why were these forts so meticulously constructed if they were merely functional military outposts? Why, in some cases, were the interiors so spacious, designed for habitation rather than defense alone? And then there are the peculiar features of the forts that seem to defy conventional explanations. For instance, many of the walls are built in such a way that their layout and structure appear to align with significant astronomical events. The positioning of the stone walls might correspond with the solstices or equinoxes, suggesting that these structures could have been used for rituals or ceremonies tied to the movement of the sun and moon. Could these forts have been more than just military outposts? Were they perhaps ancient observatories or places of ritual worship, where the inhabitants of Kerry sought to connect with forces greater than themselves? But the mystery of the Kerry stone forts deepens when one considers the Celtic influences that are believed to have shaped them. The Celts were known for their profound connection to nature and the cosmos, often constructing their sacred sites in alignment with celestial bodies. The Druids, a religious order associated with the Celts, are thought to have used standing stones and stone circles in their rituals, acts that connected them with the natural world and the divine. Could the builders of the Kerry stone forts have been influenced by similar practices? Is it possible that the forts were not just physical structures but sacred spaces, sites where ancient rituals were carried out to honor the gods of the earth, sky, and sea? There are also the unexplained artifacts that have been discovered near the stone forts, tools, pottery, and even burial sites, suggesting that the area may have been a significant cultural and spiritual center. The discovery of human remains in some of the forts hints at the possibility that they were used as places of ritualistic significance, not merely defensive outposts. Were these structures built as sanctuaries for the dead, as places to protect or honor the souls of the departed? Or were they designed to house the living in proximity to a divine presence, offering protection and spiritual power through their very construction? Another theory suggests that the Kerry stone forts might have had a more esoteric purpose, perhaps a kind of ceremonial center for early Irish kingship. Some historians have speculated that the forts were used to coronate kings or serve as venues for political and spiritual gatherings. In a society where power was often intertwined with religious authority, it is possible that the forts served as symbols of both temporal and spiritual dominion, a place where the ruler could be close to both the earth and the heavens. Still, many questions remain unanswered. What happened to the people who built these remarkable structures? Why did they choose to construct such massive stone walls, often on difficult terrain, without the benefit of advanced tools or technology? And why are these forts found primarily in isolated, almost inaccessible regions, hidden away from the broader population? Were they meant to be secret, perhaps places for an elite few, chosen to perform rites that the rest of society never saw? As the winds sweep across the hills of Kerry, rustling through the stones of these ancient fortifications, one is left with more questions than answers. The Kerry stone forts stand as silent witnesses to a world long gone, but one whose mysteries continue to echo in the landscape. Was their purpose purely practical, or did they serve a deeper spiritual function, one tied to the cycles of the heavens and the earth? What knowledge did the builders possess, and what rituals did they perform within these stone walls? Perhaps in time the answers will reveal themselves, but for now, the Kerry stone forts remain an enduring riddle, one that invites us to look deeper, to question further, and to wonder what secrets might still lie hidden beneath the weight of centuries. As we continue to peel back the layers of history, we now journey to the ancient city of Tralleis, hidden in the fertile landscapes of modern-day Turkey. In the heart of what was once Ionian Asia Minor, the ruins of this forgotten city stand as a haunting reminder of a civilization that left behind enigmatic structures, suggesting that its significance extended far beyond what we have yet uncovered. Among these ruins, one site stands out: the Tralleis Sacred Complex, a mysterious temple dedicated to the gods, whose purpose and practices remain largely shrouded in the mists of time. The Tralleis Sacred Complex lies on a gently sloping hill, with expansive views of the surrounding valley and the river below. It was once an impressive religious site, drawing worshippers from distant lands, drawn by its towering columns and sacred rites. Now, only the remains of stone foundations, carved reliefs, and scattered artifacts remain, silent witnesses to the rituals that may have taken place here millennia ago. The ruins are imposing, with remnants of grand temple structures, parts of altars, and walls that still echo the whispers of ancient prayers. Standing in the midst of these ruins, it's easy to imagine the hustle and bustle of the ancient worshippers, offering sacrifices and performing ceremonies to honor their gods. But despite the physical beauty and grandeur of the site, something is undeniably unsettling about it, something that has yet to be fully understood. The exact date of the complex's construction remains unclear, but most scholars agree it was built during the Hellenistic period, likely around the 3rd century BC. During this time, Tralleis was an important city in the Roman province of Asia and a cultural hub, with a history of wealth and intellectual achievement. The sacred complex itself, while dedicated to multiple deities, is thought to have been particularly associated with Artemis, the Greek goddess of hunting, wilderness, and fertility. The temple was no mere religious center. It was a focal point of the city's life, an architectural marvel that would have dwarfed the smaller temples in the region. Yet, despite its importance, very little is known about the day-to-day workings of the complex. It is clear from the surviving artifacts that the site was once grand, richly adorned with sculptures, friezes, and columns. A particularly striking feature is the altar at the heart of the complex, where offerings would have been made to the gods. The altar's size suggests that it was not just a place for personal offerings, but perhaps an arena for large-scale ceremonies, possibly involving sacrifices or public rituals. Yet, we have no written records detailing what these ceremonies entailed. Could it be that the rituals conducted at Tralleis were tied to celestial events, aligning with the equinoxes or solstices? Ancient temples were often designed with such alignments in mind, creating a deeper connection between the physical and divine worlds. The Tralleis sacred complex could have served not just as a religious space, but as an observatory of sorts, marking the passage of time and the movement of the stars and planets. Some archaeologists believe that the design of the temple was intentional, crafted with knowledge of the heavens that we may have only begun to rediscover. Even the sculptural reliefs and decorative carvings found in the remains of the complex are deeply symbolic. They depict a wide array of mythological scenes, some familiar from Greek mythology, while others appear to be more obscure. Some scholars speculate that these unique representations might hint at a fusion of religious practices, blending the Greek pantheon with local deities and cultural beliefs. Could the site have served as a meeting point for various cultural traditions, bringing together worshippers from different corners of the ancient world? The idea that Tralleis could have been a syncretic religious site, one where multiple belief systems intersected, raises fascinating questions about the city's role in the broader cultural landscape of the ancient world. And yet, despite these remarkable discoveries, the central purpose of the Tralleis sacred complex remains elusive. While we have physical evidence of the site's grandeur, we have no definitive understanding of the deeper spiritual or ritualistic significance of the temple. Why were such monumental resources devoted to its construction, and why was it located on this particular hill, where its grandeur would have been visible to the entire city? Could the location itself have held spiritual significance, perhaps connected to the natural landscape in ways that we still don't fully understand? Were the Tralleis sacred complex's high walls and grand columns meant to create a sense of awe and reverence, or did they serve as a powerful symbolic barrier between the mundane world and the divine? One of the most intriguing aspects of Tralleis lies in its relationship with the city's other temples, particularly the Temple of Apollo and the Temple of Athena, both of which were known for their monumental architecture and complex iconography. Was there a larger, interconnected religious network at play? Could the Tralleis sacred complex have been a key part of a larger system of temples that were all tied together in their worship of the gods, perhaps as part of a ritual calendar that coordinated the seasons, celestial events, and civic life? Even more perplexing is the fact that, despite its importance in the ancient world, the Tralleis sacred complex was abandoned long before the rise of Christianity. Some theories suggest that the site fell into disuse during the Roman period, when local pagan practices were gradually supplanted by new religious and political forces. Others propose that the site's decline was linked to a shift in religious practices, possibly influenced by political upheaval or natural disasters that disrupted the region. Could the complex have been purposely decommissioned, its rituals deliberately erased by new religious orders? Or did it fall into disrepair over time, its significance fading as the city of Tralleis itself began to shrink in importance? The remains of the Tralleis sacred complex stand as a powerful reminder of what once was, a place where the divine and mortal realms met. But much like the other mysteries we've encountered in our journey through history, it remains frustratingly incomplete. What were the ancient worshippers of Artemis truly seeking at this sacred site? Was their purpose purely spiritual, or was there something more, perhaps a hidden knowledge, a form of wisdom that has been lost to time? The altar at the heart of the complex may have been more than just a place for sacrifices. It could have been the center of a deeper, perhaps cosmic ritual. As the sun sets over the ruins of Tralleis, casting long shadows across the weathered stone, we are left with more questions than answers. The site is rich with symbolism, and its history is as elusive as the winds that whisper across the hills. What other secrets might the stones of Tralleis still hold? Are we looking at the remains of a religious center, a powerful observatory, or something altogether different? Something that might change the way we understand the ancient world? The sacred complex stands as a symbol of a world we will likely never fully know, and as we walk its silent grounds, we cannot help but wonder, what are we missing? As we move deeper into the ancient heart of Anatolia, we arrive at a site that, like so many others, quietly holds a treasure trove of secrets beneath its layers of earth and time. Alaca Höyük, a mound of earth and stone, sits nestled in the quiet hills of central Turkey. Today, it is an archaeological wonder, but in its prime, it was one of the most important cities of the Hittite Empire, a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago and left behind a legacy of grandeur and enigma. The site of Alaca Höyük is striking. Rising gently from the surrounding plain, the mound itself is the remains of a once thriving city, its towering structures and sacred spaces long reduced to stone foundations and broken fragments. What remains today are the impressions of a sophisticated culture, intricately designed pottery, ornate metalwork, and a series of monumental tombs that seem almost too grand for the humble landscape. These tombs, with their elaborate designs and mysterious artifacts, suggest a society that understood not just the art of war, but the more mystical and symbolic realms of life and death. The most intriguing part of Alaca Höyük lies in the royal tombs that were uncovered during excavations in the early 20th century. These tombs, many of which date back to the 17th century BC, were discovered to contain rich grave goods, gold jewelry, bronze weapons, and ornate ceremonial objects that point to a society that revered its leaders as divine figures. The tombs themselves are nothing short of extraordinary. Carved into the earth and often marked with large stone markers, they are thought to have been the final resting places of kings or high-ranking figures, buried with items that reflect not only their wealth, but their power and influence in life. But while these tombs offer us a glimpse into the opulence of their occupants, they also raise unsettling questions. Who were these people, and why were they buried with such extravagant riches? What did these treasures represent? And perhaps more importantly, what did these tombs say about the culture's beliefs in life after death? The art that adorned the tombs, reliefs, sculptures, and symbols, offers another layer of mystery. Many of the carvings appear to represent divine figures, warriors, and animals, intertwined in a way that is unmistakably ceremonial. However, there is something about the symbolism that feels distinctly unfamiliar, as though the people who created these carvings were channeling ideas that have since been lost to time. Was this religious imagery tied to a belief system we can no longer fully understand? Or were these figures perhaps ancestors or gods whose stories have been forgotten? One of the most peculiar features of the site is the metalwork that was uncovered in the tombs, particularly the intricate gold standards and ceremonial implements. The Alaca Höyük tombs have yielded some of the most advanced metalworking from the early Bronze Age, including finely crafted gold jewelry and weapons. These artifacts suggest a society with remarkable craftsmanship and a deep understanding of metallurgy. But there is an unsettling element to some of these items, an almost alien quality to the artistry, as though the techniques used were not entirely of this world. Was this merely the advanced craftsmanship of the time, or did these artifacts hold symbolic meanings that elude us? Could the materials themselves have had spiritual significance, metals that were believed to possess divine or mystical properties? What adds to the mystery of Alaca Höyük is its position within the broader context of the Hittite Empire. The Hittites were one of the great powers of the ancient world, dominating much of Anatolia and even parts of the ancient Near East. But despite their prominence, much of their culture remains shrouded in mystery. The Hittite script, a unique writing system that has yet to be fully deciphered, adds an additional layer of intrigue. The royal tombs at Alaca Höyük are thought to be related to the Hittite kings, yet there is no direct mention of the city in any surviving Hittite records, creating a gap in our understanding. Why would such a prominent city leave so little behind in terms of written records? Were these rulers considered so sacred that their names and deeds were kept secret, protected by a kind of religious taboo? Or were they deliberately erased from history for reasons we may never understand? The mysteries surrounding Alaca Höyük deepen when we consider the symbolism of the tombs and their associated objects. For example, the ritual weapons found within the tombs are not just items of war, they are ceremonial, designed with intricate patterns and symbolism that suggests their use in spiritual rites. In some cases, the weapons are so finely crafted that they appear more as works of art than tools of war. What role did these objects play in the afterlife beliefs of the Hittites? Were these objects meant to accompany the dead into the next world, or did they serve as a means of protecting the soul during its journey? Even the location of Alaca Höyük adds to its air of mystery. The city is situated near the Çorum province of Turkey, a region that has long been home to ancient civilizations. Its proximity to important trade routes suggests that it may have been a crossroads for ideas, goods, and people, an intersection where different cultures and belief systems collided. Was this why Alaca Höyük developed such a rich and complex cultural identity, blending influences from across the ancient world? Could it be that the site was not merely a city, but a sacred place? A site of pilgrimage or ritual for a larger cultural network that spanned across Anatolia and beyond? The Alaca Höyük site continues to yield new discoveries, and with each new excavation, more pieces of the puzzle emerge. Yet the questions that surround it seem only to multiply. What did the Hittites truly believe about the afterlife, and how did they prepare their leaders for the journey beyond death? What do the extraordinary objects found in the royal tombs tell us about their worldview? Why does this seemingly important city, rich in symbolic treasures, remain so elusive in the historical record? As we stand among the weathered stones of Alaca Höyük, we are reminded that for all the knowledge we have gathered, the true purpose of this ancient city remains just out of reach. The tombs, the metalwork, the symbols, they all point to a society that was deeply connected to something greater than itself, a society that sought to preserve the power and influence of its rulers for eternity. Yet, as we look at the broken stones, the worn gold, and the faint carvings, we are left to wonder, what might still lie buried beneath the surface of Alaca Höyük, hidden from view, waiting to reveal the secrets of a civilization that lived long before us? As we journey through the remote landscapes of the Orkney Islands in Scotland, we arrive at one of the most haunting and enigmatic sites of the ancient world, the Broch of Gurness. Tucked away on the windswept northern coast, this ancient structure stands as a silent sentinel against the sea, its weathered stones rising from the earth like a forgotten monument to a civilization whose name has long faded into the mists of time. The Broch of Gurness is unlike any other Iron Age structure. The Broch, a type of dry stone tower, was a feat of engineering, built with precision and purpose, yet its exact function remains a mystery. Standing amidst a landscape of rugged cliffs and turbulent waters, the Broch commands a view of the distant horizon, a vantage point that hints at the importance this site once held. Its walls, towering up to 15 feet in places, were constructed in a circular formation, surrounding a central courtyard that was likely used for communal purposes. The Broch itself, however, is just one part of a much larger settlement, a site that once buzzed with life but now lies abandoned, its stone structures crumbling against the relentless passage of time. What makes the Broch of Gurness so intriguing, beyond its imposing size and strategic location, is the mystery that surrounds its purpose. Was it a fortress, designed to protect its inhabitants from raiders or rivals? Or was it something more? A symbolic structure meant to convey power and prestige, a marker of status for its creators? Some archaeologists argue that it was a defensive structure, built to withstand attacks from seafaring enemies, while others suggest it may have served as a place of ritual significance, a spiritual hub for the people who lived here. The layout of the Broch and its surrounding buildings suggests a highly organized society, one that was capable of complex construction techniques. The central tower, known as the Broch itself, was surrounded by a series of smaller structures, buildings that may have served as homes or workshops, arranged in concentric circles. The construction of these walls, built without mortar, showcases an intricate knowledge of dry stone masonry. The Broch's design, with its double walls and internal staircase, seems to suggest a kind of isolation, a space where only the most important individuals had access to the higher levels, perhaps indicating a hierarchical social structure. Yet, while the Broch itself is an impressive feat of engineering, there is no definitive answer as to why this particular design was chosen. Was it for defense, status, or was there another more profound reason for its construction? Inside the Broch, evidence suggests that the inhabitants were skilled in a variety of crafts. Tools, pottery, and animal bones found within the structure hint at a society that relied heavily on farming, animal husbandry, and craft production. But what did the people of Gurness believe? Was this a place of refuge, where the local population sought shelter from external threats? Or was it a site of greater significance, perhaps a center for ceremonial rites that connected the people with the gods or spirits of the land and sea? The presence of decorated pottery and ritual objects, some with animal motifs, adds a layer of mystery to the site. Were these symbols of protection or offerings to deities that we no longer understand? The most unsettling aspect of the Broch of Gurness is the sense of isolation that it conveys. Located at the edge of the world, surrounded by the unforgiving waters of the North Sea, it was a place that connected the human realm with the wild forces of nature. The construction of the Broch on such a remote stretch of coastline raises questions about the beliefs of the people who chose this location. Why here, on the very edge of the known world? Did the site have spiritual significance, a sacred place where the line between the physical and spiritual worlds was thought to be thinner? Or was the Broch simply a practical structure, built with the harsh realities of the environment in mind, a fortress against the elements as much as against human threats? Adding to the mystery is the fact that, while the Broch's construction is remarkable, little is known about the people who built it. It is believed that the site was occupied during the Iron Age, around the 1st century BC, a time when the Picts, the enigmatic peoples of northern Britain, were flourishing. Yet, despite extensive excavation, there are no written records from the time to provide insight into the lives of the Broch's inhabitants. Who were they, and what did they believe? What connection did they have to the broader world? Were they isolated, or did they engage in trade and interaction with other communities along the coast or across the sea? The Picts, known for their mysterious culture and enigmatic art, left behind few clues that would allow us to fully understand their beliefs, social structures, or daily lives. Could Gurness have been a site that held secrets we are still not ready to comprehend? Some archaeologists speculate that the Broch of Gurness could have been part of a wider network of similar structures scattered across the Orkney Islands and northern Scotland, suggesting that these Brochs were more than just defensive towers. Were they perhaps centers of power, where the leaders of the local communities could assert their influence and control? Or were they places of ritual significance, built to honor the gods or mark important celestial events, such as solstices or equinoxes? The Orkney Islands have long been associated with ancient rituals and alignments with the heavens, with many archaeological sites in the region showing evidence of astronomical observations and practices. Theories abound, yet no one theory has been universally accepted. Some suggest that the Broch was not just a fortress, but a place of seclusion, reserved for a select group of people. The double-wall construction, with its winding staircase and narrow entryways, could have been designed to create a sense of separation, an intentional isolation that was part of the Broch's mystique. Others propose that the Broch was a place of ritual burial, where the dead were interred in a sacred space, ensuring that they remained close to the gods and the spirits of the land. Despite years of excavation and study, much of the Broch's significance remains elusive. The Broch of Gurness stands as a testament to the ingenuity of its creators, but it also serves as a reminder of the unanswered questions that continue to haunt us. What secrets are buried beneath the stones of this ancient structure? Were the people of Gurness truly isolated, or was there more to their story, a connection to forces, both human and spiritual, that we are only just beginning to comprehend? As the wind howls across the empty shores of the Orkney Islands, the Broch of Gurness remains a silent, stoic witness to the mysteries of the past. What lies hidden within its walls, waiting to be discovered? And what truths, lost to time, might still be waiting to reveal themselves, hidden beneath the weight of centuries? The Broch stands as a riddle, not just in stone, but in the very fabric of history itself, its answers still locked away, just out of reach. After venturing through the ancient coastal brochs of northern Scotland, we turn our gaze to a far more ancient and mysterious site, located in the heart of what is now Pakistan. Mehrgarh, an early city of incredible significance, holds the key to a much older, much deeper mystery, one that ties the rise of civilization to the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the Indus Valley. This forgotten settlement, which rose into prominence around 7000 BC, stands as a monument to early human ingenuity, yet it is as enigmatic as it is awe-inspiring. Situated in the Kachi Plain, near the Sibi region in the foothills of the Karakoram Mountains, Mehrgarh might seem an unlikely cradle for civilization. Its location is both remote and harsh, far from the lush river valleys or fertile plains that have traditionally been seen as the birthplaces of early cultures. Yet here, amidst the arid desert landscape, the foundations of one of the earliest known agricultural societies were laid. What makes Mehrgarh truly remarkable, however, is not just its age or its early advancements in farming, but the profound mystery of its people and their way of life. When archaeologists first began to excavate the site in the 1970s, they uncovered a settlement far more complex than they had expected. Far from being a simple village or encampment, Mehrgarh revealed itself to be a vibrant hub of early agricultural life, with carefully constructed homes, evidence of domesticated animals, and a thriving culture of pottery and textiles. The people of Mehrgarh were cultivating crops like barley and wheat, and raising cattle, sheep, and goats long before these practices became widespread in other parts of the world. But what sets this site apart, what elevates it into the realm of the truly mysterious, are the cultural and technological innovations that seem to emerge from nowhere. For one, the people of Mehrgarh were skilled in the crafting of stone tools, but they also created pottery that was far more advanced than anything seen in other early agricultural societies. The ceramics uncovered at the site, finely made and intricately designed, suggest that these people had not only mastered the art of firing clay, but they had begun to develop their own distinct artistic language, one that might have had symbolic significance beyond just function. These were no simple utilitarian vessels. They were decorated with patterns and motifs that still elude clear interpretation. Perhaps even more intriguing, though, is the evidence that suggests the inhabitants of Mehrgarh had an early and sophisticated understanding of textile production. Cotton, remarkably, seems to have been cultivated in the region as early as the 5th millennium BC, a feat that, at the time, would have been astonishing. The discovery of early woven fabrics and spindle whorls, used in spinning fibers into thread, points to a society that not only understood how to cultivate and weave materials, but one that had begun to develop a complex economy based on these textiles. How did the people of Mehrgarh acquire this knowledge, and how did they perfect such skills in an environment so seemingly inhospitable to the crops they cultivated? It's the mysteries surrounding the early religion and ritual practices of the people of Mehrgarh that raise the most questions. While the settlement shows clear evidence of functional spaces, homes, granaries, workshops, there are also signs of spaces that may have been used for more spiritual or ceremonial purposes. Small figurines, perhaps of goddesses, have been found, as well as animal sacrifices and evidence of other ritualistic practices. The presence of figurines carved in the shape of women, often adorned with jewelry or symbolic markings, suggests that the people of Mehrgarh may have worshipped a fertility goddess or a mother deity, common themes in many early cultures. But why these specific figures? And what do they say about the values and beliefs of this early society? Were they simply functional objects used in daily life, or did they represent something deeper, something symbolic of the culture's spiritual worldview? Another particularly curious aspect of Mehrgarh is the mysterious burial practices that have been uncovered. Several necropolis sites, graves that date back thousands of years, reveal bodies buried with rich grave goods, ornate jewelry, tools, and even animal remains. Some of the graves appear to belong to individuals of higher status, suggesting that Mehrgarh may have had a complex social structure, one that included divisions of wealth and power. But what is most puzzling about these graves is the nature of the items buried with the deceased. Among the grave goods are items like beads made from turquoise and lapis lazuli, stones that are not native to the region and must have been imported from afar. How did the people of Mehrgarh acquire such rare and exotic materials? Were they part of a far-reaching trade network, or did these items have symbolic importance that we do not yet understand? More questions arise when we consider the gradual transformation of Mehrgarh into a major urban center. By around 2500 BC, the settlement had grown into a well-developed town with larger buildings, more sophisticated urban planning, and evidence of an even more complex social structure. But the rise of Mehrgarh coincides with the emergence of the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the world's most mysterious and advanced early cultures. Was Mehrgarh simply a precursor to the Indus Valley cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa? Or did it play a more integral role in shaping the early developments that would later define one of the world's great ancient civilizations? Some have speculated that Mehrgarh's influence may have been part of a larger religious or cultural movement that spread across the entire Indus region. Could the unique burial practices and ritual items found in Mehrgarh have had a lasting impact on the Indus Valley civilization's own religious practices? And what about the mysterious decline of Mehrgarh itself? By around 2000 BC, the settlement began to decline, possibly due to environmental changes, shifting trade routes, or the rise of competing centers of power. Why, after thousands of years of growth and innovation, did this advanced society begin to wither? Was it simply the march of time, or was there something more? Perhaps a deep cultural or spiritual collapse that left the site abandoned and largely forgotten. In many ways, Mehrgarh remains a riddle wrapped in the mists of prehistory. Its role as a precursor to the Indus Valley civilization suggests a level of sophistication that was far ahead of its time, yet so much about the people and their beliefs remains elusive. How did these early inhabitants, living in a place where few could have survived without deep knowledge of their environment, come to develop such advanced agricultural techniques, artistic traditions, and social structures? As we stand among the ruins of Mehrgarh, the silence is overwhelming. The people who once lived here, whose hands shaped the stone and molded the clay, left behind a world that was both rich and mysterious. But as we try to understand their world, we are left with the haunting question: what knowledge, lost to the ages, still lies buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And could there be more, hidden within the ruins, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? The mystery of Mehrgarh is far from over. As we leave behind the mysteries of Mehrgarh, we turn our attention to another ancient site that, like many others, seems to rise from the earth with its own set of unanswered questions. Deep in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, hidden away from the usual paths of historical discovery, lies the Nevali Çori archaeological site, an enigmatic settlement that predates the construction of the famous Göbekli Tepe by several centuries, but one that holds equally fascinating secrets. The Nevali Çori site, located near the banks of the Karacames River, was discovered in the 1980s and has since become a focal point for researchers seeking to understand the rise of early civilization in the Upper Mesopotamian region. The site is marked by the remains of what appears to be a religious or ceremonial complex, with massive stone structures, towering statues, and intricate carvings that hint at a society deeply invested in spiritual and ritual life. Unlike other early settlements that were primarily designed for habitation or defense, Nevali Çori seems to have been created for a different purpose, one that we are only beginning to understand. The complex of stone buildings is arranged in a circular formation, with large, carefully constructed walls and impressive columns. What is most remarkable about the site is the sheer scale and craftsmanship of the stones used in its construction. The blocks, some weighing several tons, were meticulously carved, with detailed reliefs and images of human figures and animals, symbols that may have held deep significance for the people who built them. Yet, the people of Nevali Çori left no written records to explain their beliefs or the meaning behind the symbols they etched into the stones. The most striking feature of Nevali Çori is its central platform, an elevated area that seems to have served as the focal point for ceremonies or rituals. Surrounding this platform are several megalithic pillars, much like those found at Göbekli Tepe, pillars carved with intricate motifs of both animals and abstract designs. These monoliths suggest a high degree of sophistication in stoneworking, but they also pose a fundamental question. Why were these giant stones erected in such a specific, deliberate way? What purpose did they serve for the people who raised them? The size and placement of the pillars seem to indicate a profound connection between the physical world and the spiritual or celestial one. Could these pillars have been aligned with the stars or celestial events, marking key times of the year, like solstices or equinoxes? The site's orientation, though still under study, appears to suggest a sophisticated understanding of the heavens, one that predated many of the world's most well-known ancient cultures. The idea that Nevali Çori could have served as a form of early astronomical observatory is compelling, but like many of the mysteries surrounding this site, it remains speculative. Adding to the intrigue are the ritualistic figures uncovered at Nevali Çori, particularly the large stone carvings of human figures, some of which feature exaggerated features like large staring eyes or elongated hands. These figures, standing in solemn repose, could represent deities, ancestors, or powerful figures within the society. Their prominence suggests a society deeply invested in ritual or spiritual life, yet the exact significance of these figures remains elusive. Were they representations of gods or mythic heroes? Or perhaps they were symbolic guardians of the site itself, protectors of a sacred space, ensuring that the rituals performed there were in harmony with the divine? The presence of human and animal motifs carved into the stones also hints at the importance of animism or totemism within the belief system of the Nevali Çori inhabitants. Were animals, such as bulls and snakes, seen as sacred or representative of certain forces in nature? Or were these images perhaps a form of storytelling, depictions of myths or legends passed down through generations? Without written records, we can only speculate on the precise cultural meanings behind these symbols. However, it is clear that the people of Nevali Çori used art, architecture, and ritual to express their connection to the world around them, both seen and unseen. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all lies in the eventual abandonment of Nevali Çori. The settlement seems to have been actively used and developed between 9000 BC and 8000 BC, only to be suddenly and mysteriously abandoned by around 8000 BC, a pattern that is consistent with many other early ceremonial sites in the region. Why was such a large, complex site, with its monumental pillars and intricate carvings, left to decay? Were external pressures, such as climate change, conflict, or disease, the cause of this abandonment? Or could the reasons be more spiritual in nature, tied to the very rituals that defined the people of Nevali Çori? Did the people abandon their sacred space for reasons we cannot fathom? Could it have been the case that the religious or spiritual significance of the site had shifted, causing the community to move away, seeking new places to practice their beliefs? There are some who speculate that the abandonment of Nevali Çori may have been linked to the changing dynamics of the early agricultural revolution. As humans began to move away from strictly hunter-gatherer lifestyles and settled into permanent farming communities, new priorities may have emerged, shifting focus away from ceremonial centers and toward more practical concerns of food production, shelter, and defense. Yet, even this theory remains speculative. Nevali Çori could well have been abandoned for reasons far more complex than mere economic or agricultural shifts. After all, the site was deliberately constructed with such effort and sophistication that it's difficult to imagine it being left behind without some profound cause. Adding another layer of mystery is the fact that Nevali Çori was essentially buried by the earth for thousands of years, hidden from view until modern archaeologists rediscovered it. The site had been largely forgotten, its secrets locked beneath centuries of soil and time, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Were the builders of Nevali Çori aware of their place in time, or were they merely part of a continuum, unknowingly laying the foundations for a future that they could never imagine? Was there a specific esoteric knowledge preserved in this site, one that we have yet to unlock? It is worth noting that the rise of Nevali Çori, much like its sister site, Göbekli Tepe, represents a turning point in human history. These sites suggest a time before the rise of cities and kingdoms, when humans were still deeply connected to the land, to nature, and to the divine. Yet, as with so many other ancient sites, the answers that could shed light on the beliefs, culture, and eventual disappearance of the people of Nevali Çori remain hidden beneath the earth. Perhaps the greatest question surrounding Nevali Çori is not about its structure or the civilization that built it, but about what we have yet to discover. What knowledge, lost to time, might still be buried beneath the rubble of this forgotten place? And could the mystical symbols carved into the stones, the rituals performed in the shadow of the monolithic pillars, hold the key to unlocking something deeper within the human experience, something we've long since forgotten? The mystery of Nevali Çori is far from over, and its true meaning might still be waiting to be unearthed. From the stone pillars of Nevali Çori, we journey across the ancient landscapes of South America to a site that lies in the arid coastal deserts of Peru, an astonishing megalithic complex that has baffled archaeologists and historians for centuries. This is Chankillo, an ancient structure that predates the Inca Empire and continues to challenge our understanding of early astronomical and ceremonial practices. Unlike any other site, Chankillo was designed with a unique purpose in mind, one that combined the forces of nature with human ingenuity. But the true extent of its significance is still unclear, even as scholars slowly peel back its layers of mystery. Situated in the Atacama Desert, about 400 kilometers north of Lima, Chankillo is a sprawling complex of stone structures scattered across a dry, desolate plain. What makes this site particularly captivating is its observatory hill, which is home to a set of 13 large stone towers that line the crest of a ridge, forming a striking and highly visible arrangement. At first glance, it might seem like nothing more than an ancient fortification or ceremonial site. However, as the site's features are studied more closely, it becomes apparent that these towers were intentionally designed to track the movements of the sun, and perhaps the stars. The 13 towers of Chankillo are arranged in a precise formation, each one standing tall and solitary against the wide-open expanse. The positioning of the towers is not random. In fact, their placement creates a sundial effect that marks the passage of time in the most direct and awe-inspiring manner. As the sun rises and sets throughout the year, the towers cast long shadows, and the observer can trace the sun's position along the horizon. This design is believed to have served as an astronomical calendar, allowing the ancient inhabitants of Chankillo, likely the Tokra culture, around 500 BC, to mark significant celestial events like the solstices and equinoxes. But what makes Chankillo so extraordinary is not just its sophistication, but the fact that it was one of the earliest known examples of such an advanced astronomical observatory in the Americas. Unlike the Maya or Inca, who would later develop their own monumental observatories and systems of celestial tracking, the people of Chankillo crafted a system that was both elegant and functional, a way to connect their daily lives to the eternal rhythms of the heavens. What was their ultimate purpose? Were they simply observing the stars for agricultural reasons, or was there a deeper, more esoteric purpose at play? As we examine the 13 towers more closely, we begin to see the mystery unfold. Some towers appear to have been built to emphasize certain alignments, creating a dramatic effect when the sun passes through them at specific points in the year. This precise arrangement suggests that the people of Chankillo were not just concerned with tracking the sun. They were constructing a ritualistic structure that might have held spiritual significance. Were the towers built to honor the sun itself, or did they symbolize something even greater? Perhaps a connection between the living world and the divine, or between the forces of nature and the human realm? In addition to the towers, the site also features a central plaza, where large stone structures and ceremonial platforms were likely used for communal rituals. The scale and design of this plaza, coupled with the nearby towers, indicate that Chankillo may have served as both an observatory and a religious center, a place where the inhabitants could align their lives with the cosmic order. The people of Chankillo, it seems, were far more than early astronomers. They were builders of a cosmic calendar that connected their earthly existence to the cyclical, eternal movements of the heavens. Yet, even with these revelations, Chankillo still holds its secrets tightly. The exact nature of the rituals that took place at the site remains unclear. We know that Chankillo was built by the Tokra people, but little is known about their culture, their language, or their beliefs. The Tokra were not the only ancient civilization to understand the power of the sun, but the scale and precision of their structure at Chankillo hint at a sophistication that was previously unseen in the region. Some theorists have speculated that Chankillo may have served not just as an observatory, but as a ritual center where important ceremonies tied to the sun and celestial events were conducted. Could the people of Chankillo have used the solar alignment of the towers to mark the beginning and end of planting seasons, or to celebrate cosmic events that linked their rulers to the gods? Were the movements of the sun seen as a reflection of divine order, and were these ceremonies a way to appease the gods and ensure the prosperity of their people? The truth remains elusive, but the size and grandeur of the site suggest that it was of immense cultural and religious importance. One of the more curious elements of Chankillo is its location. The site is far from any major river systems or fertile valleys, which raises the question, why was this particular site chosen for such an elaborate construction? The Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, is a region that may seem inhospitable to human life, yet it was here that the Tokra chose to build their monument. Could the harsh, barren landscape have been deliberately chosen to emphasize the power and importance of the celestial forces the Tok'ra worshipped? Was this desolate expanse a physical reflection of the connection they sought to establish between their world and the heavens? The site's abandonment also raises further questions. Chankillo was used for several centuries, but by around 200 BC, it seems to have been largely abandoned. What happened to the Tok'ra and their astronomical observatory? Was there a dramatic shift in their culture, or did they migrate to other parts of the Andean region, taking their knowledge and beliefs with them? Some have suggested that the rise of other cultures in the region, including the Nazca and Moche, may have led to the eventual decline of Chankillo as a ceremonial site. But what led to the Tok'ra's retreat? Was it environmental change, internal social upheaval, or the rise of external forces? Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of Chankillo, however, is that while we have learned much about the Tok'ra's impressive solar alignment and architectural sophistication, we still don't fully understand the cultural significance behind the site. While it is tempting to view it purely as a form of astronomical observation, the possibility that it also held spiritual or ritualistic importance cannot be ruled out. The 13 towers may not have simply marked the sun's movement through the sky. They may have symbolized something much larger, something that connects humanity's place in the universe with the very forces of nature and the cosmos. As we stand amidst the ruins of Chankillo, with the towers rising sharply against the sky, it's hard not to wonder what secrets still lie hidden within this remarkable site. What was it that the Tok'ra knew about the cosmos, about the cycles of the earth, and about the sun's power that we have yet to understand? Could Chankillo hold the key to a lost knowledge of ancient astronomy and spirituality? Knowledge that transcended mere observation and shaped the very way this early civilization viewed their place in the universe? The mystery of Chankillo is far from solved, and as we continue to study this enigmatic megalithic complex, the answers may remain just out of reach, waiting for the right moment in history to be revealed. As we leave behind the ancient astronomical marvels of Chankillo, we now turn our gaze to a settlement that, though hidden in plain sight, carries with it an equally perplexing mystery, a mystery that lies nestled in the dry hills of Cyprus, where the distant hum of the Mediterranean winds meets the silence of the ages. Welcome to Khirokitia, an ancient megalithic settlement that dates back to around 7000 BC, a place that, like so many other early civilizations, offers us only glimpses of its secrets through the faintest traces of stone and memory. Khirokitia is situated in the south-central part of Cyprus, perched on a low hill that overlooks a sprawling valley. The setting is serene, almost idyllic, with rolling hills and the occasional olive grove dotting the landscape. But the mystery here is far from peaceful. The remains of Khirokitia suggest a highly organized society, one that, despite being so far removed from other early urban centers, demonstrates incredible sophistication in both its architecture and its social structure. The circular stone houses, many of which were built into the hillsides, give the site a characteristic, almost otherworldly appearance. Each structure is built with massive stones, carefully placed without mortar, creating walls that have stood the test of time, some over 8,000 years, though the site itself has been mostly abandoned for millennia. At first glance, Khirokitia appears like a typical early settlement, small, fortified, and unremarkable, but as archaeologists have uncovered its secrets, it has become clear that this was no ordinary community. The layout of the settlement is strikingly planned, with concentric rings of buildings arranged around a central open area. The walls of these circular structures are made of large, undressed stones, but the interior was often plastered with a smooth white surface, suggesting a desire for aesthetic appeal as well as functionality. The houses are carefully arranged to make use of the landscape, and each dwelling contains evidence of hearths, storage areas, and even evidence of domestic life, like pottery, tools, and ornaments. What stands out, however, is the engineering skill that went into the construction of Khirokitia. The walls are not simply rudimentary, they are thick and well constructed, showing an understanding of both defense and climate control. The circular form of the houses would have helped in maintaining temperature regulation, keeping the interiors cool in the sweltering heat of the Cypriot summer and warmer during the colder months. The decision to build with such solidity and foresight suggests that the inhabitants of Khirokitia were not just trying to survive, they were thriving, thinking ahead to the future. Yet, even with all that is known about Khirokitia, it is the social structure and cultural significance of the settlement that remain elusive. There are several aspects of Khirokitia that defy conventional understanding. For instance, the presence of large communal areas, ritual sites, and ritualistic objects suggests that the community was not simply focused on survival, but on something greater, a shared belief system, a connection to the spiritual world. There are figurines and small stone idols found throughout the settlement, many of which depict human forms or animals. These may have had ritualistic or symbolic significance, perhaps linked to ancestor worship, fertility rites, or other early forms of religion. Even more puzzling is the fact that many of the houses at Khirokitia were intentionally buried after they were abandoned. This deliberate burial of structures is not a common practice in other known ancient settlements. The act of covering up homes and structures raises intriguing questions. Was this a sign of respect for the land, or perhaps a ritualistic act meant to preserve the memory of the site? Was there a symbolic meaning to burying the houses, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another? Could it have been related to some kind of ceremonial practice or an effort to protect the spirits of the ancestors? The abandonment of Khirokitia around 2500 BC is another key element of its mystery. The settlement seems to have been thriving for nearly 4,500 years, but at some point it was deserted. Archaeologists have found no evidence of war or sudden catastrophe, leading to speculation that the abandonment could have been due to environmental factors, such as drought, or perhaps a shift in trade routes that made the site less central to the surrounding communities. The settlement's abandonment raises an even deeper question. Why would a culture that had invested so much in the building and maintaining of this complex community suddenly leave it behind? Was there an internal social upheaval? Or was there a deeper, more spiritual reason for leaving? These are questions that remain unanswered. As we delve deeper into the remains of Khirokitia, it becomes clear that the inhabitants were part of a much larger and more intricate network of societies that spanned the eastern Mediterranean. Some have speculated that they were connected to other ancient cultures, perhaps even influencing or being influenced by contemporaneous civilizations on the nearby mainland or on the island of Crete. The Minoans, known for their advanced culture, had a strong presence in the region. Could Khirokitia have shared cultural practices or artistic influences with these more famous civilizations? Or was it an isolated, self-sustaining community that had its own unique traditions and beliefs? There is also the curious matter of the burials found at Khirokitia. While the settlement itself is not centered around a large monumental tomb, there are several individual graves located outside the main settlement area. These graves contain stone-lined chambers and have been found with grave goods, such as tools, jewelry, and ceramics. This suggests that the people of Khirokitia placed significant importance on the afterlife, possibly viewing death as a passage to another realm. The fact that some of these graves belong to individuals of higher social status raises further questions. Was there a ruling class or elite in Khirokitia? And if so, what role did they play in the society's religious and cultural practices? Were these elite individuals perhaps buried with offerings meant to ensure their safe passage into the afterlife? As with many ancient sites, The mysteries of Khirokitia are amplified by the scarcity of written records. While we know that the inhabitants were skilled in agriculture, pottery, and other domestic crafts, the lack of written language leaves us with little insight into their thoughts, beliefs, or daily lives. What were the symbolic meanings behind the figurines and idols that have been found? Why were the homes buried so deliberately? And what led to the sudden abandonment of a thriving, well-planned settlement? It is in these unanswered questions that Khirokitia's mystery remains alive. The settlement stands as a symbol of an ancient world we can never fully understand, a world that left behind only fragments, circular stones, buried houses, and the faintest whispers of rituals that may have once tied the people to the earth, the heavens, and each other. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Khirokitia is not just in what was left behind, but in what may still be hidden beneath the earth. Could there be more to discover about this enigmatic society? Perhaps an untold history, a lost belief system, or a hidden treasure buried with the long-forgotten ancestors? The answers may still lie buried beneath the hills of Cyprus, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. Until then, the mystery of Khirokitia will remain, a timeless riddle in the annals of human history. Leaving the quiet mysteries of Khirokitia behind, we turn our gaze toward a more ancient and enigmatic location, a place where the sun sets over the distant horizon, casting long shadows on the stones of a forgotten city. The Tharros Ruins, located on the western coast of Sardinia, seem at first glance to be just another archaeological site. Yet, like so many others we've uncovered in our journey, Tharros offers far more than meets the eye. It is a place where layers of history overlap, where the ruins of one civilization rise on the foundations of another, and where the true purpose of the city remains elusive, perhaps hidden beneath the soil, waiting to be unearthed. The ruins of Tharros stretch across a rugged promontory that juts out into the Mediterranean Sea, surrounded by the deep blue of the water and the rocky shores of the island. The air here is thick with history, and as the breeze sweeps over the site, it feels as though the very stones hold memories of a civilization long gone. The site itself is sprawling, dotted with the remnants of ancient structures that seem to defy the passage of time: stone walls, foundations of large buildings, and fragments of columns. But it is the location of Tharros that makes it so intriguing. The city was established by the Phoenicians around the 8th century BC, though it has been inhabited long before, possibly even as early as the Bronze Age. Its position on the promontory suggests that it was not just a settlement, but a strategic outpost, its residents likely observing the Mediterranean world and controlling access to trade routes that would have linked North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. At its peak, Tharros was a thriving port city, a center of Phoenician trade and culture. As the Phoenicians were renowned sailors and traders, their establishment of Tharros in such a prime location makes sense. The city would have been a hub of commerce, its ships setting sail to distant lands. Yet, like so many other ancient cities, its true story is not one of prosperity alone. Tharros holds within it secrets that continue to elude scholars. Though much is known about its role as a Phoenician stronghold, there are certain aspects of the site that remain shrouded in mystery: its eventual decline, the exact reasons behind its abandonment, and the deeper cultural significance of its architecture. Among the most remarkable features of the site are its ancient temples and sanctuaries, many of which have been uncovered in remarkably good condition. These religious structures suggest that the people of Tharros were deeply connected to their gods, perhaps in ways that we still don't fully understand. The Temple of Tanit, dedicated to the Phoenician goddess of fertility, has been one of the most notable finds. The sanctuary is surrounded by stone altars and decorated with carved symbols of the goddess, which may have been part of rituals performed by the inhabitants. But as with many ancient sites, the question remains: what was the true purpose of these temples? Were they places of simple worship, or did they also serve as gathering points for more complex, perhaps even secretive, ceremonies? The stones here might hold the answers, if we can unlock their language. Even more enigmatic are the mysterious inscriptions found throughout the site, carvings and markings that may hold the key to understanding the deeper spiritual or cultural significance of Tharros. The Phoenicians were known for their distinctive script, but much of their written language remains a puzzle. Could these inscriptions reveal more about their beliefs, or perhaps give us insight into the rituals and ceremonies that took place within the city's walls? Or could the inscriptions be something more, perhaps markers of power or even warnings to future generations? The possibility that these markings might hold deeper hidden meanings makes the search for answers all the more urgent. It is not just the temples and sanctuaries that provoke our curiosity, however. The layout of the city itself offers clues about its inhabitants' priorities. The city's design includes a central plaza, surrounded by a network of streets, many of which were lined with residential homes, workshops, and public buildings. The organization of the space hints at a society that was highly structured, yet there is little evidence to suggest that this structure was ever purely military in nature. Instead, the open-air nature of many of the buildings points to a community that valued both trade and religion equally. It is possible that the people of Tharros viewed themselves not simply as merchants or warriors, but as intermediaries between the gods and the people. However, it is the decline of Tharros that remains one of the site's greatest mysteries. The city was eventually abandoned by the Phoenicians around the 2nd century BC, but it wasn't just a slow, natural decline. There is evidence to suggest that Tharros was destroyed, or at the very least sacked, at some point during its final days. Could the rise of the Carthaginians, who shared the Phoenicians' maritime and mercantile interests, have led to the city's eventual fall? Was there an internal uprising, or perhaps an external invader that brought the city to its knees? Archaeologists have found evidence of burned buildings, suggesting that the city may have been deliberately torched, perhaps as part of a larger campaign of conquest. And yet, there is another theory, one that points to the possibility that Tharros was not entirely abandoned in the conventional sense. Some believe that the city's decline may have been the result of a shift in trade routes or a change in maritime practices, leading the Phoenicians to relocate to other cities along the Mediterranean. If this was the case, then Tharros would have been left behind not because of military defeat, but because it was no longer strategically relevant. But this, too, raises questions. Why would a once thriving city be abandoned so abruptly? And what happened to its people after the city's collapse? Did they flee, or did they simply fade into the background, leaving behind only their monuments and temples? Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of the mystery of Tharros is its uncertain cultural identity. While it is widely accepted that the Phoenicians built the city and left their mark on it, there is evidence that suggests the site was not solely Phoenician. Other Mediterranean cultures, such as the Etruscans and Greeks, may have had a presence in the city, and some scholars speculate that Tharros might have served as a cultural melting pot, where ideas, beliefs, and traditions were exchanged across a wide swath of the ancient Mediterranean world. Could this blending of cultures have led to a unique religious or societal practice that we have yet to fully uncover? As we stand amidst the ruins of Tharros, the mysteries of this ancient city feel as though they are waiting to be unlocked, hidden beneath the stones and the sands of time. What happened to this once thriving Phoenician port? Was it sacked by invaders, abandoned due to changing tides of power, or did it simply fade away as a new era of Mediterranean trade took hold? What did the rituals and inscriptions of the city truly signify? These are questions that remain unanswered, but the ruins of Tharros continue to invite exploration and investigation. Perhaps the greatest mystery that Tharros holds is one that is common to many ancient cities, the mystery of what lies beyond the stones we see, what secrets remain buried, and what hidden truths might still be waiting to be uncovered. As we leave the windswept ruins of Tharros behind and journey into the heart of the Middle East, we find ourselves in a place where the ancient desert sands of Palestine hold secrets that have long remained obscured by time. In the Timna Valley, nestled among the barren hills of the Negev Desert, a collection of temples and shrines offers us a glimpse into a world that once flourished in the shadows of myth and legend. The Timna Valley temples, dating back to the 10th century BC, are among the most enigmatic and controversial archaeological sites in the region, revealing not only the mysteries of the past, but also the enduring questions that surround the ancient cultures of this unforgiving land. The Timna Valley is a desolate stretch of wilderness, surrounded by rugged mountains and punctuated by jagged outcrops of rock. The valley itself is cut deep into the landscape, with sun-baked cliffs towering above the dry, sandy floor. It is a place that feels as though it holds its breath, holding on to ancient secrets just out of reach. The temples in the valley are scattered among the cliffs, their weathered stones rising like ghostly sentinels from the earth. What was once a thriving hub of activity, perhaps serving as a place of worship or ritual, now lies abandoned, silent in the vastness of the desert. As you walk through the ruins, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing down around you. These temples are not monumental structures, but rather small shrines and sacred spaces, carefully constructed using stone and mud brick. The Timna Valley itself has long been associated with the ancient Midianites, a nomadic people mentioned in biblical texts, though their precise role in the history of the region remains unclear. Some scholars suggest that the temples may have been used by the Midianites, while others speculate that they were built by the Egyptians as part of their mining operations in the region. What is certain, however, is that these temples stand as a testament to a culture that flourished in the arid desert long before modern civilization took root. The temples of Timna are not ordinary structures. Their design is unlike most other ancient religious sites, which were typically dedicated to gods and kings. Here, the temples seem to have a unique purpose, one that blends ritual and function in a way that we are only beginning to understand. The most famous of these temples is the Temple of Hathor, dedicated to the Egyptian goddess of love, music, and fertility. What makes this temple so remarkable is not just its dedication to an Egyptian deity, but the pictorial evidence found within. The walls of the temple are covered in a series of intricate carvings and paintings that seem to depict scenes of ritual sacrifice, processions, and ceremonial worship. These depictions offer tantalizing clues about the spiritual practices of those who built and frequented the temple, yet their meanings remain ambiguous. The Temple of Hathor is not the only one in the Timna Valley. Several other shrines and sacred spaces have been uncovered, each with its own unique features. Among these is a larger temple complex that appears to have been used for a variety of purposes, from ritual ceremonies to mining activities. Some archaeologists have suggested that the valley may have served as a religious center for the ancient Egyptians, where they performed ceremonies to honor their gods, while also overseeing the extraction of valuable minerals from the surrounding hills. But what is the connection between the mining and the rituals? Did the Egyptians believe that the mines were sacred, or was it simply a matter of pragmatism, the need to extract resources while maintaining a connection to the divine? The mystery deepens when we consider the evidence of sacrificial practices found at the site. In the Temple of Hathor, archaeologists have uncovered remains of animals, as well as what appears to be human bones. The discovery of these remains suggests that the rituals performed at the temple were not just symbolic. They involved blood offerings and sacrificial rites. This is not an isolated phenomenon. Other sites in the Timna Valley have also yielded evidence of sacrificial practices, including burnt bones and offering vessels. But who were the victims of these sacrifices? Were they local inhabitants, or were they brought to the valley from elsewhere? And why were these sacrifices made? Was it to appease the gods, to ensure prosperity, or was there a darker, more complex reason behind these rituals? Some researchers have even posited that the sacrificial practices at Timna might be linked to the Egyptian influence in the region. The Egyptians were known for their elaborate religious rituals, many of which involved human and animal sacrifice. Could the practices at Timna have been adopted or influenced by the Egyptians during their control of the area? Or was the site the product of a local, independent culture with its own belief system? The evidence is inconclusive, but the presence of Egyptian-style imagery, coupled with the sacrificial remains, certainly raises questions about the nature of Egyptian involvement in the region. Another fascinating aspect of the Timna Valley temples is the possibility that the valley served as a sacred gateway, a place of passage between the physical and spiritual worlds. The valley itself is naturally isolated, surrounded by high, rugged hills and harsh desert terrain, creating an environment that could be seen as a threshold between the mundane and the divine. Did the people who built the temples believe that the valley was a liminal space, where the veil between the living and the dead, the earthly and the divine, was particularly thin? The existence of ritual altars and sacred objects suggests that the valley was viewed as a place where the gods were especially present. But were these rituals intended to connect with the divine, or were they attempts to manipulate the forces of nature, the sun, the stars, the earth itself, to gain favor or protection? The temples of Timna remain shrouded in mystery not just because of the enigmatic nature of the rituals they hosted, but also because of their uncertain origins. Who exactly built these structures, and for what purpose? Was it the Egyptians, the Midianites, or another unknown civilization? The historical record is scant, and the archaeological evidence is often difficult to interpret. The very location of the temples, isolated in the desert, adds an element of mystique to their story. Was the valley chosen for its proximity to natural resources, or was it selected because it was already believed to be a sacred place? As we stand at the edge of the Timna Valley, gazing across the desolate, sun-baked landscape, it is impossible not to wonder what truths still lie buried beneath the sand. The ruins that remain, weathered stone, ancient carvings, and forgotten altars, offer us glimpses into a world long lost to time, but they also raise more questions than answers. What rituals were performed in these temples? What gods were worshipped here, and why? And perhaps most intriguingly, why were the temples of Timna left to decay in the desert, abandoned long before we could fully understand their meaning? The mystery of Timna may never be fully solved, but as we continue to dig through the layers of history, the answers may eventually come to light, revealing the forgotten truths of a people who once sought to touch the divine in the desolate expanse of the desert. As we leave behind the enigmatic temples of the Timna Valley and venture further into the northern reaches of Europe, we arrive at a place where the cold wind whispers secrets from a distant past. Here, on the rugged island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea, lies a megalithic grave mound, a silent sentinel that holds within it not only the remains of the dead, but also the mysteries of a culture long forgotten. This burial mound, like so many others scattered across the world, is more than just a final resting place. It is a symbol of a time when the line between the living and the dead was far more fluid, and when the rituals surrounding death held a significance that we, in our modern world, can barely comprehend. The megalithic grave mound at Gotland is located near the village of Havor, a site that has drawn the attention of archaeologists and historians for decades. From the surface, it appears to be just another ancient burial site, a large mound of earth and stone, rising in the midst of a pastoral landscape. The mound itself is part of a cluster of burial mounds that dot the island, suggesting that Gotland was once a center of activity for ancient peoples who revered their dead in elaborate ways. But, as with many ancient graves, The true mystery lies not in what is visible, but in what is hidden beneath the earth. This particular grave mound, dated to around 1500 BC, is one of the most striking and intriguing examples of megalithic burial sites in northern Europe. It stands out not only because of its size, spanning over 20 meters in diameter, but also because of its contents. The mound is not simply a heap of stones and earth, but a carefully constructed structure, created using large, flat stones that form a stone chamber within. Inside this chamber, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of what appears to be an elite individual, perhaps a chief or an important figure from the community. Surrounding the remains are ritual objects, including tools, weapons, and ceramics, all of which suggest that the individual was not only buried with honor, but also with the expectation of an afterlife that mirrored their life on earth. The grave mound itself is a testament to the advanced knowledge of the people who built it. The stone structure is intricately arranged, with the chamber placed at the heart of the mound. The alignment of the stones and the precise placement of the burial suggest that the ancient builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geometry, knowledge that would have been essential for creating such a structure. Some researchers have even speculated that the orientation of the grave mound could be linked to celestial events, the rising and setting of certain stars or the movements of the sun. If this is the case, the mound may have had a dual function, serving not only as a tomb, but also as a ritualistic marker, guiding the souls of the deceased to the afterlife. But it is the ritual objects found within the mound that deepen the mystery. Among the items discovered are bronze daggers, stone axes, and ceremonial pottery, objects that would have been carefully crafted and of great significance. These items may have been meant to accompany the deceased in their journey to the other side, or perhaps they were part of the funerary rites performed during the burial process. The inclusion of such objects suggests that the people of Gotland had a rich cultural and spiritual life, one that revolved around the belief in an afterlife and the importance of ritual sacrifice. However, what remains most perplexing about the megalithic grave mound at Gotland is the fact that the individual buried within was not alone. Surrounding the grave are a number of smaller burial mounds, each containing the remains of other individuals, some of whom were likely also of high status. What is striking is that these smaller mounds are not arranged haphazardly, but in a pattern that suggests a form of social order. Could these mounds represent the hierarchical structure of the society that built them? Were the individuals buried here members of an elite class, or were they chosen to accompany the main figure in death as part of a ritual sacrifice? The idea of sacrificial burial is not new, and we have seen similar practices at other ancient burial sites, but the evidence for such a practice at Gotland remains speculative. Another intriguing feature of the megalithic grave mound is the stone carvings found nearby. Some of these carvings appear to depict symbols that are not immediately recognizable. Intricate patterns, spirals, and geometric shapes that seem to suggest a ritualistic significance. These carvings could be simple decorative motifs, but there is a possibility that they were meant to represent something much more profound. Some theorists have suggested that these symbols may have been a form of writing, an early attempt to record the names and deeds of the deceased, or perhaps a way to mark the site as sacred. Others believe that the carvings are more likely to be spiritual symbols, intended to invoke the power of the gods or the spirits of ancestors to guide the dead to the afterlife. As we look closer at the mound and the surrounding area, we begin to realize that the megalithic grave mound at Gotland is not simply a burial site, but a portal, a gateway to another world, one that is defined not by time and space, but by belief and ritual. The mound itself seems to have been built as a means of communicating with the beyond, and it is possible that the rituals performed here were seen as necessary to ensure the safe passage of the deceased to the afterlife. The bronze daggers, stone axes, and ceremonial pottery may have been not only physical offerings, but symbolic keys, meant to unlock the doors to the next world. Yet, despite the many clues we have uncovered about the megalithic grave mound, the ultimate mystery remains. Why was this mound built in the first place? What motivated the people of Gotland to invest so much effort, time, and resources into constructing such an elaborate structure for their dead? Was the individual buried within truly of such importance, or was this simply a ritualized form of burial reserved for all members of society, regardless of their status? The answer may lie in the deep connection between the living and the dead that the people of Gotland may have believed in. For them, death may not have been the end, but a continuation, a journey to a place where the physical world and the spiritual realm intersected. Perhaps the mound was a manifestation of this belief, a sacred site where the boundaries between life and death were not as rigid as we perceive them to be today. And as we reflect on the megalithic grave mound at Gotland, we are left with more questions than answers. What remains buried in the earth, waiting to be uncovered? Could there be more burial chambers, ritual artifacts, or hidden carvings waiting to reveal further insights into the spiritual life of this ancient culture? As the winds blow across the island and the shadows stretch long over the land, it is clear that the mysteries of Gotland have not been fully revealed. Only the faintest whispers of a forgotten world remain, urging us to look deeper, to ask more, and to wonder what might still lie hidden beneath the surface. As we shift our focus once more, leaving the windswept grave mounds of Gotland behind, we travel across the Irish Sea to the Emerald Isle, where, hidden among the green hills of County Meath, lies one of Ireland's most fascinating and enigmatic ancient sites. The Mound of the Hostages, located on the hill of Tara, stands as a silent testament to a distant past, a mound that has held the secrets of ancient rituals, royalty, and spiritual practices for millennia. The mound itself, a large stone structure surrounded by a series of earthworks, rises from the Irish landscape like a great burial mound, the earth piled high over centuries. It is easily missed by those unfamiliar with the area. After all, it is not nearly as imposing as some of the larger Neolithic sites in Europe, nor as famous as other monuments in Ireland. Yet, despite its seemingly modest appearance, the Mound of the Hostages has long captivated archaeologists and historians alike, holding within its earth a rich, albeit largely forgotten, history. Its name alone, the Mound of the Hostages, invites curiosity, as it implies a connection to people held captive, and the mysteries of who these hostages were and why they were so significant remain at the heart of the site's intrigue. The Mound of the Hostages is part of the larger Hill of Tara complex, a place historically believed to be the seat of the High Kings of Ireland, a location where ancient rituals, royal ceremonies, and governance took place. The hill itself is dotted with numerous monuments and structures, suggesting that it was once a thriving center of power. Yet, despite the numerous archaeological findings, much about the Hill of Tara, and especially the Mound of the Hostages, remains uncertain, wrapped in a veil of mystery. The Mound of the Hostages is most famous for its passage tomb, a structure that leads deep into the earth, its narrow passage aligned with the sunrise on the spring equinox. This precise alignment suggests that the people who built it were not only deeply attuned to the movements of the sun, but also likely believed in the symbolism of the sun's journey through the sky. The tomb's inner chamber, though now largely empty, once contained the remains of individuals, perhaps not just any individuals, but those of great importance. Archaeologists believe the mound was used as a royal tomb, where the leaders of the ancient Arran tribe, possibly even High Kings of Ireland, were interred. But there is another possibility. Could these burials represent a different class of people? Were they perhaps hostages, as the name of the mound suggests, held by force or as part of a political bargain? The idea of hostages takes on particular significance in the context of ancient Ireland, where political power was often exercised through alliances and rivalries between tribes. Hostages were sometimes taken by rival kings or clans to ensure that treaties were honored. These individuals, while not necessarily prisoners in the modern sense, were often treated as symbols of peace or bargaining chips, their lives tied to the political maneuverings of their rulers. Could those buried within the mound have been held in such a way? Could they have been sacrificed in the service of greater political or religious purposes? Or were they part of rituals that we, with our limited understanding of ancient practices, can only begin to imagine? Inside the passage tomb, the stonework is remarkable. The tomb is constructed from large slabs of stone, carefully arranged to create a long corridor that leads to a small circular chamber. While much of the tomb has been disturbed over time, the remains of artifacts found within offer hints at its ancient function. Among the objects recovered are beads, pottery, and fragments of bronze objects, items that would have been valuable in the society of the time, suggesting that those interred here were not ordinary people, but part of an elite class. Yet, why were such objects placed within a tomb of the hostages? Were these offerings to the gods, or did they symbolize the status of those interred within? A crucial aspect of the mystery surrounding the mound of the hostages is the uncertain nature of its use. While many scholars believe it was a royal tomb, others have suggested that it might have been a ritual site, a place where spiritual ceremonies were performed, perhaps to honor the gods or to invoke divine favor. The alignment of the tomb with the sunrise on the spring equinox, a moment when the sun crosses the celestial equator, suggests that the people who built it may have had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and seasonal cycles. Could the mound have been a place where sacrifices were offered in the hopes of ensuring a good harvest or maintaining peace in the kingdom? And if so, who would have been the ones chosen to serve as offerings to the gods? Could they have been political hostages caught in a ritual that was both a sacrifice and a symbol of power? The name Mound of the Hostages itself adds another layer of mystery. Hostages were often taken as a symbol of control or peace, but they could also be seen as sacrificial figures, people whose lives were traded for political gain or even offered to appease the gods. This adds an element of darkness to the story of the mound. Were the people buried within the mound sacrificial victims? If so, was their death part of a larger ritual aimed at appeasing the gods or ensuring the well-being of the community? Or were they, perhaps, important captives held for their symbolic value alone, kept alive as a constant reminder of the tenuous political balance of power? As we stand before the mound of the hostages, the answers to these questions remain elusive. Archaeological evidence points to its importance as a ritualistic and political site, but it is still unclear who the hostages were and what role they played in the complex web of power and religious practice that characterized ancient Irish society. The connection between political power and ritual sacrifice in ancient cultures is well documented, but how exactly these practices played out in the mound of the hostages is still unknown. What we do know is that the mound itself, with its carefully placed stones and its dark, mysterious interior, continues to invite speculation. Its astronomical alignment and the objects found within hint at a deep connection between the physical world and the spiritual realm. But the true meaning of the site, its use, its significance, and the identities of those buried there, remains as much a mystery as it was when the tomb was first constructed. Perhaps, in the coming years, further excavation and study will shed light on the secrets of the mound of the hostages, on who those buried within its walls were, and why their burial was marked by such ceremony and reverence. Until then, the mound remains an enduring symbol of the ancient world's connection to the divine, and of the mysterious rituals that defined both politics and spirituality in a time long past. And as the land around Tara continues to breathe its silent secrets, the question lingers: what remains hidden beneath the mound? waiting to tell its story. As we leave the solemn quiet of the Mound of the Hostages and venture further into the ancient landscapes of Europe, our journey brings us to a site that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and mystics alike. Nestled in the rolling hills of Wiltshire, in southern England, is the Long Barrow at West Kennet, a structure that, despite its age, stands as an enigmatic portal to a world that once believed deeply in the unseen forces of life, death, and rebirth. The West Kennet Long Barrow is a megalithic tomb that stretches across the landscape like a colossal stone serpent, its massive stones aligned to form a tomb that seems to hold more than just the remains of the dead. It lies just a short distance from the famed Avebury Stone Circle and not far from Stonehenge, making it part of a remarkable cluster of prehistoric sites scattered across the Wiltshire Plain. But what sets the Long Barrow apart is not just its size or location, but the sense of mystery that clings to it, a tomb that invites as many questions as it answers. At first glance, the West Kennet Long Barrow is an imposing structure. It is a long, rectangular mound, constructed with large stones that form a series of burial chambers within. Measuring over 40 meters in length, the barrow seems to reach into the earth as though trying to touch something beneath it, pulling the dead into the sacred ground. The mound itself is built with a combination of earth, stone, and wooden structures, and as you stand before it, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe at the effort it must have taken to construct such a monument, an effort that would have involved countless laborers, a deep understanding of construction, and, perhaps most importantly, a profound belief in the importance of the afterlife. The entrance to the barrow is marked by a large stone portal through which visitors can enter into the heart of the tomb. Inside, the chambers are dark and cool, but the walls themselves are alive with the echoes of the past. Within these chambers, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of at least 46 individuals, their bones arranged in a way that suggests they were buried in stages, possibly over several centuries. These remains are not the only clues left behind. Alongside the human bones, archaeologists have also discovered artifacts, stone tools, pottery, beads, and even fragments of human skulls, suggesting that the people buried here were not only revered in life, but also honored after death in a series of complex rituals. The presence of these ritual objects raises immediate questions. Why were they placed here? Were they offerings to the deceased, intended to accompany them into the afterlife? Or did they serve another, more symbolic function, perhaps a way to ensure the spiritual protection of the dead, or to mark them as important figures within the community? The nature of the burial itself suggests that the Long Barrow was not just a place of death, but a place of memory, where the bones of the dead were treated with great reverence, perhaps as ancestors or spiritual guides for those still living. The alignment of the Long Barrow is another fascinating feature. It is thought to be oriented in such a way that, during the winter solstice, the sun shines through the entrance and illuminates the innermost chambers, casting long shadows across the tomb. This suggests that the builders of the barrow not only had an intimate understanding of the cycles of the earth, but may have also incorporated the sun's path into their burial rituals. In this light, the Long Barrow could have been designed not just as a tomb, but as a ritual site that mirrored the passage of the seasons and the eternal cycle of life and death. But what did the builders believe? Were they simply marking time, or was there a deeper, more profound connection to the sun's journey through the sky, to the dead, and to the cosmos itself? Yet despite its clear significance, there are aspects of the West Kennet Long Barrow that remain shrouded in mystery. One of the most puzzling elements of the barrow is its age. Radiocarbon dating has placed its construction around 3700 BC, suggesting that it was built during the Neolithic period, a time when societies were just beginning to shift from a nomadic existence to more settled agricultural life. But the barrow itself does not seem to fit neatly within the timeline of other Neolithic tombs. Its large size, Its use of megalithic stone and its complex design suggest a level of sophistication that seems to defy the early technological capabilities of its builders. How were they able to transport and manipulate such massive stones? What tools did they possess, and how did they understand the geometry and design necessary to build such a tomb? The purpose of the West Kennet Long Barrow is another question that has perplexed archaeologists. While it is clearly a burial site, it seems that it may have had a much broader role within the community. The fact that the barrow was used over such a long period of time, several centuries, suggests that it was not only a place for individuals to be buried, but that it may have served as a ritual space for the community as a whole. Could it have been used for ceremonies beyond those of burial? Some researchers have even suggested that it may have been a place where the community gathered to perform ancestral worship, or to mark the changing seasons through rituals that mirrored the movement of the sun. Furthermore, the presence of human skull fragments within the barrow suggests the possibility that the tomb may have been associated with skull cults, a practice that was common in many ancient cultures, where the skulls of the dead were kept as ritual objects, or even revered as sacred relics. Could the people who built the Long Barrow have believed that the skulls of their ancestors held special power? That they could speak to the living or act as intermediaries between the living world and the spirit world? As we consider the mysteries surrounding the West Kennet Long Barrow, we are left with more questions than answers. The tomb's alignment with the sun, the artifacts found within, and the very presence of human remains all suggest a culture deeply connected to the spiritual world and to the cycles of nature. But what were these people's beliefs? Were they simply seeking to honor the dead? Or did they see the tomb as a gateway to the afterlife, a sacred space that bridged the gap between the living and the dead? And perhaps most intriguingly, what more might lie hidden within this ancient monument? Could there be more burial chambers yet to be uncovered? Could there be further clues buried deep within the earth, waiting to shed more light on the mysterious rituals of those who built the Long Barrow? As we stand before the West Kennet Long Barrow, the weight of history presses down on us. The tomb is a silent witness to a time long past, its massive stones and dark chambers holding secrets that have yet to be fully revealed. It is a place where the past and the present meet, where the boundary between the living and the dead feels thin. And as we walk away, the questions linger in the air. What did the people of the Neolithic believe? And what other secrets might still be waiting to be uncovered beneath the earth, buried in the silent darkness of the West Kennet Long Barrow? Leaving behind the sacred spaces of West Kennet Long Barrow, we now travel north, into the heart of Yorkshire, England, where a mystery of great antiquity stretches across the land, waiting to be explored. Here, the Thornborough Henges, a monumental complex of earthworks and ancient enclosures, sits quietly amidst the rolling countryside. Despite its grandeur and age, this ancient site remains somewhat overlooked by the broader public, yet it is one of the most significant and puzzling archaeological complexes in Britain. In the soft light of dawn, the Henges stand like ancient sentinels, guarding the secrets of a lost world. The Thornborough Henges are a collection of 3 large circular earthworks, arranged in a near-perfect line across the landscape. These massive, mound-like structures are not just random earthworks. They are ritualistic spaces, their arrangement and purpose intricately tied to the cycles of the seasons and the celestial movements of the heavens. Stretching over several miles, the Henges form part of a much larger landscape of prehistoric monuments, including stone circles, burial mounds, and ritual sites, all of which speak to a time when ancient peoples were deeply connected to the forces of nature, to the land, and to the heavens. Each of the 3 Henges at Thornborough is surrounded by a large ditch and an outer bank of earth, a typical design of Neolithic and Bronze Age earthworks. The Henges are not isolated in their design. They are carefully aligned, suggesting that those who built them understood more than just earthworking techniques. They had a keen awareness of the celestial body above them. While the exact age of the Henges remains uncertain, they are thought to date back to around 2500 BC, placing them in the heart of the Neolithic period, a time when early human societies were transitioning from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to more settled agricultural communities. But what makes the Thornborough Henges truly fascinating is the way they are arranged. The three henges are laid out along an axis that runs east to west, aligning with the sunrise and sunset during the solstices. This alignment suggests that the henges were not simply practical structures but were carefully designed to serve a ritualistic purpose, perhaps linked to the cycles of the sun, the seasons, or even astronomical events. Could these henges have been used for ceremonial purposes, marking the changing of the seasons or celebrating key moments in the agricultural calendar? Or perhaps they served as places where the living communicated with the spirit world, connecting with the ancestors, or invoking the divine to ensure a successful harvest or to bring blessings upon the community? The mystery deepens when we consider the construction of the henges themselves. The sheer scale of the earthworks is staggering, each one measuring hundreds of meters in diameter. It would have taken immense effort, organization, and knowledge to construct these sites, especially given the Neolithic tools available at the time. How did these ancient peoples transport and shape such large quantities of earth and stone? Some researchers believe that the construction of the henges may have been a community effort, perhaps involving not just the local population, but surrounding tribes as well. Could the henges have been constructed during specific rituals that involved large groups of people working together to invoke supernatural forces? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that, unlike other megalithic sites like Stonehenge, there are no large standing stones within the Thornborough Henges. Instead, the henges are made up of earthen banks and ditches, suggesting that the ritual significance of the site was tied more to the earth itself rather than large standing stones. This distinction raises further questions. Why were the people of Thornborough content to use earth as their primary medium of construction, while other contemporary cultures opted for stones? Was there something about the earth itself that was considered sacred? Was the act of shaping and manipulating the land itself a form of ritualized creation? In addition to the henges, the surrounding landscape is dotted with other archaeological features that may have had a role in the ritual activities at the site. Nearby, but one of the most perplexing features of the Thornborough Henges is the site's apparent abandonment. Unlike many other large-scale megalithic sites, the Thornborough Henges seem to have been used for a relatively short period of time, after which they were largely forgotten, their purpose obscured by time. What happened to the people who built these grand monuments? Why did they stop using the henges after only a few centuries? Could the answer lie in a dramatic shift in spiritual beliefs, a cultural collapse, or perhaps the arrival of a new, competing religious or political force that overshadowed the old ways? Some scholars have speculated that the site's ritualistic importance faded with time, as the people living in the region moved away from their earlier connection to the celestial and earthbound forces. Alternatively, there are more speculative theories suggesting that the Thornborough Henges may have been tied to some sort of cataclysmic event, a natural disaster, a cultural upheaval, or perhaps even an event that caused the people to abandon the site for reasons we may never fully understand. Were the henges abandoned because they had outlived their ritual purpose? Or was there something else, something darker, that led to their decline? The absence of definitive answers to these questions has only deepened the mystery surrounding the Thornborough Henges. Archaeologists continue to study the site, looking for clues buried beneath the earth. Excavations are ongoing, and every year new finds shed light on the past, whether they are artifacts, bones, or other remnants of the ancient world. Yet, despite these discoveries, the full significance of the henges remains elusive. As we stand before the great earthworks of Thornborough, we are confronted with a monumental puzzle. The Henges themselves are a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual devotion of those who constructed them, yet so much about their purpose, their builders, and their eventual abandonment remains unknown. Was Thornborough simply a ritual center for a prehistoric community, or was it part of something much larger, something that we are only beginning to grasp? The Henges stand, still silent and mysterious, their significance slowly being uncovered by the patient work of archaeologists. Yet, the most pressing question remains. What was the true purpose of the Thornborough Henges? And what else might lie hidden beneath the earth and stone, waiting to reveal the forgotten secrets of an ancient civilization? The Thornborough Henges, like so many other ancient monuments, beckon us to look deeper, to question more, and to keep searching for answers that may still be buried but which could one day illuminate the mysterious world of those who built them. As we continue our exploration of ancient mysteries, we now turn our attention to something that often slips under the radar, yet carries with it an air of intrigue that has puzzled scholars and captivated the imagination of many: ancient giant stone foundations. These massive, often megalithic foundations, scattered across various parts of the world, seem to defy the understanding of how ancient peoples, without the technological advancements of the modern world, could have constructed such monumental structures with such precision. They challenge our assumptions about early human capabilities, prompting questions that reach into the very heart of history's most profound mysteries. One such example lies deep in the heart of Palestine in a region known as Tel Jericho, one of the oldest inhabited cities on Earth. Here, researchers have uncovered massive stone walls, some of which reach up to 5 meters high and stretch over 3 kilometers in circumference. These walls, dating back to around 8000 BC, are thought to have been part of the city's fortifications, a structure so vast and sophisticated that it seems almost impossible to have been built with the primitive tools available at the time. The stones used to construct the wall are enormous, with some weighing several tons, yet there are no signs of advanced machinery, just an overwhelming sense of human labor and ingenuity. How could these ancient people have moved such large stones and stacked them with such precision? What tools did they use, and how did they achieve such accuracy in construction? But the mystery extends beyond Jericho. Similar stone foundations can be found in South America, particularly in Peru, at sites like Sacsayhuaman in Cusco and Tiwanaku in Bolivia. At these locations, giant stones, some weighing as much as 100 tons, have been cut and placed with such meticulous craftsmanship that even modern engineers are left astounded. The stones fit together so perfectly that a blade cannot be inserted between them, and yet these structures were built at a time when no known advanced tools were available. How could ancient cultures, without the use of iron tools or cranes, have achieved such a feat? And why were they constructing such gigantic foundations in the first place? In Sacsayhuaman, the stones are not only massive but irregularly shaped, each one carefully carved to fit into the next, creating a seamless structure that appears almost organic in its design. The walls are staggered, with the stones rising to incredible heights. Some of the stones are so large that modern machinery would struggle to lift them. The precision of the fit is so tight that it is nearly impossible to fit a knife blade between them. How could the ancient people of the Inca Empire, with their relatively rudimentary tools, have crafted such a precise and enduring structure? What kind of methods did they employ to carve and transport stones of this size? Similarly, in Tiwanaku, just across the border in Bolivia, the foundations of a massive temple and its monolithic structures challenge the very fabric of what we think we know about ancient civilizations. Among the most famous structures here is the Pumapunku, a platform made of large, finely cut stones, some weighing several tons. The precision with which these stones were cut, sharp angles, interlocking shapes, and perfectly symmetrical faces suggests that the builders were using methods far ahead of their time. Yet, as in the case of Sacsayhuaman, no written records exist to tell us how these colossal stones were carved, shaped, or transported. Modern archaeologists have struggled to recreate the techniques necessary to produce such works, adding to the enigma. What knowledge did the people of Tiwanaku possess that has since been lost to time? But it is not just South America that contains these mysteries. Europe, too, is home to massive stone foundations, often dating back to prehistory. In Scotland, the Callanish stones stand as an enduring testament to ancient engineering. These upright stones, arranged in a circular formation, are thought to have been erected by Neolithic peoples between 2900 BC and 2600 BC. Some stones stand over 4 meters high and are so perfectly aligned that they seem to follow the movement of the sun. The sheer effort involved in transporting these massive stones, many of them quarried from distances of up to 30 kilometers, raises more questions than answers. What kind of tools did these people use to quarry and move such heavy stones? How did they arrange them with such accuracy? One of the most curious aspects of these stone foundations, whether at Jericho, Tiwanaku, Sacsayhuaman, or the Callanish stones, is their purpose. While most of the stones are clearly part of structures built for ceremonial or religious purposes, the sheer scale of the construction suggests that the builders were not just interested in making functional buildings. There seems to be a deeper significance, one tied to cosmology, rituals, and possibly even an understanding of the Earth's forces that we have lost over millennia. Could the stones have been designed to harness some kind of Earth energy or astrological alignment? Were they, in some way, a reflection of the belief systems of the societies that created them? Or were they built as sacred sites, aligned with the stars and the movements of the celestial bodies? Some researchers have proposed that these ancient peoples may have had access to lost knowledge, a form of craftsmanship or technology that was later lost due to social upheaval or environmental catastrophe. This theory suggests that the builders of the giant stone foundations might have used tools or methods that we have yet to rediscover. Were the giant stones cut using some form of ultrasonic vibration? Was there some kind of magnetic manipulation at play, allowing the builders to move the massive stones with ease? These ideas, though speculative, raise the possibility that ancient civilizations possessed a sophisticated understanding of natural forces that allowed them to achieve feats beyond the capabilities of today's engineers. Yet, as compelling as these theories are, there is no definitive evidence to confirm any of them. The mainstream explanations often point to more practical methods, such as the use of primitive tools, ropes, sledges, and human labor. But these still leave many gaps. Even with such techniques, how could ancient peoples have moved and manipulated such massive stones with such precision? At the heart of the mystery lies the question, why? Why were these massive foundations necessary in the first place? Were they simply tombs or temples, or did they serve a function we can no longer understand? Could they have been places of power, where the forces of the earth, the heavens, and the people converged? Were they symbols of a lost knowledge, or perhaps a reminder of something ancient and forgotten? As we look across these ancient giant stone foundations, the questions only multiply. The precision, the scale, and the effort involved in constructing these sites are staggering. Yet, despite our modern advances in technology, we still cannot fully recreate or comprehend how these great feats of engineering were accomplished. The ancient giant stone foundations stand not just as relics of a bygone era, but as silent witnesses to a lost past, holding secrets that we may never fully uncover. And so, as we walk away from these towering stones, we are left with a sense of awe and wonder. What did the ancients know that we have forgotten? What lost knowledge lies hidden in the stones, waiting to be rediscovered. The mystery endures, unresolved, enigmatic, and ever beckoning for deeper exploration. But one of the most perplexing features of the Thornborough Henges is the site's apparent abandonment. Unlike many other large-scale megalithic sites, the Thornborough Henges seem to have been used for a relatively short period of time, after which they were largely forgotten, their purpose obscured by time. What happened to the people who built these grand monuments? Why did they stop using the henges after only a few centuries? Could the answer lie in a dramatic shift in spiritual beliefs, a cultural collapse, or perhaps the arrival of a new, competing religious or political force that overshadowed the old ways? Some scholars have speculated that the site's ritualistic importance faded with time as the people living in the region moved away from their earlier connection to the celestial and earthbound forces. Alternatively, there are more speculative theories suggesting that the Thornborough Henges may have been tied to some sort of cataclysmic event, a natural disaster, a cultural upheaval, or perhaps even an event that caused the people to abandon the site for reasons we may never fully understand. Were the henges abandoned because they had outlived their ritual purpose, or was there something else, something darker, that led to their decline? The absence of definitive answers to these questions has only deepened the mystery surrounding the Thornborough Henges. Archaeologists continue to study the site, looking for clues buried beneath the earth. Excavations are ongoing, and every year new finds shed light on the past, whether they are artifacts, bones, or other remnants of the ancient world. Yet, despite these discoveries, the full significance of the henges remains elusive. As we stand before the great earthworks of Thornborough, we are confronted with a monumental puzzle. The henges themselves are a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual devotion of those who constructed them, yet so much about their purpose, their builders, and their eventual abandonment remains unknown. Was Thornborough simply a ritual center for a prehistoric community, or was it part of something much larger, something that we are only beginning to grasp? The henges stand, still silent and mysterious, their significance slowly being uncovered by the patient work of archaeologists. Yet, the most pressing question remains. What was the true purpose of the Thornborough Henges, and what else might lie hidden beneath the earth and stone, waiting to reveal the forgotten secrets of an ancient civilization? The Thornborough Henges, like so many other ancient monuments, beckon us to look deeper, to question more, and to keep searching for answers that may still be buried, but which could one day illuminate the mysterious world of those who built them. As we continue our journey through the ancient wonders of the world, we now find ourselves in the rugged and often mysterious landscape of the North Caucasus, an area that has long been steeped in both history and legend. Nestled between towering peaks and steep valleys, one of the region's most enigmatic features stands in silent testimony to a past whose details remain hidden: the dolmens of the North Caucasus. These ancient stone structures have intrigued archaeologists and historians for over a century. Found primarily in the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains, the dolmens are massive stone tombs that have stood for thousands of years, their purpose and meaning still fiercely debated. Their construction, design, and alignment with the natural world suggest a profound understanding of both architecture and ritual, yet much about them remains shrouded in mystery. The dolmens themselves are striking in their simplicity and grandeur. These structures, built between 3000 BC and 1000 BC, are generally composed of large, flat stones stacked to form a small chamber, often with a circular or rectangular opening at the front. Each dolmen is carefully constructed, with some weighing several tons, placed with astonishing precision. What immediately strikes the observer is not just the sheer size of these stones, but the remarkable way in which they have been arranged. The dolmens are often aligned with cardinal directions or natural landmarks, suggesting a deep connection to both the celestial and terrestrial forces of the earth. The dolmens vary in size and complexity. Some are simple, with just a few large stones forming a small burial chamber, while others are more elaborate, with multiple chambers or intricate stone carvings adorning their surfaces. The majority are found in the Krasnodar and Adygea regions of the North Caucasus, though similar structures are scattered across parts of Georgia, Armenia, and Dagestan. These burial sites were clearly important to the peoples who built them, but the exact nature of their significance remains unclear. One theory suggests that these dolmens were primarily used as tombs, serving as the final resting place for important members of society. But while human remains have been found in some of the dolmens, they are not as numerous or as consistent as one might expect for a funerary site of this magnitude. In fact, many dolmens have been found empty or without burial offerings, raising questions about their true purpose. Were they solely for the dead, or did they also serve a more ritualistic or ceremonial function? The stones used in the construction of the dolmens vary widely, with some structures composed entirely of large limestone blocks, while others use local river stones. What is particularly intriguing is the transportation of these stones. Some of the dolmens contain massive slabs weighing up to 50 tons, and yet there is no clear evidence of the tools or methods that would have been used to move them. In the absence of any written records or advanced construction techniques, we are left to wonder, how did the builders of these dolmens manage to transport and lift such massive stones with the rudimentary tools of the time? Was it the sheer power of human labor that moved these stones, or did they have some form of unknown technology or knowledge of physics? The alignment of the dolmens also speaks to their potential astronomical significance. Many are oriented with remarkable precision to the solstices, the rising and setting of the sun, or even specific stars in the sky. This has led some to speculate that these structures were more than just tombs, but were astronomical observatories or ritual sites tied to the cycles of nature. Could the dolmens have been used to mark important events on the agricultural calendar? Or perhaps they had a more mystical significance as a way of connecting the earthly and celestial realms. One of the most fascinating aspects of these dolmens is the mysterious carvings that adorn some of them. These markings, though often faint and worn by time, are believed to depict symbols of spiritual or cosmological significance. Some of the carvings appear to represent sun motifs. Others feature abstract designs or even what appear to be animal representations. Could these carvings have been a way of communicating with the gods, or perhaps a form of ritualistic art meant to accompany the dead on their journey into the afterlife? Some archaeologists suggest that the symbols may even represent a prehistoric form of writing, predating the more familiar scripts of the ancient world by millennia. While the interpretation of these symbols remains speculative, they add an additional layer of intrigue to an already enigmatic site. As we move through the misty corridors of history, the Castro culture fortifications stand as silent witnesses to a time long past, a time of complex societies, fortified villages, and architectural ingenuity. Nestled in the rugged terrain of the northwest Iberian Peninsula, these ancient structures offer us a glimpse into a civilization whose very existence remains veiled in mystery. The Castro culture, which thrived from the Iron Age until the Roman conquest in the 1st century BC, is marked by an array of unique and enigmatic fortifications that continue to spark debate among historians and archaeologists. The Castro forts, or castros, are distinctive for their circular or oval-shaped walls, often constructed using dry stone techniques, where massive stones are stacked without the use of mortar. The walls of these fortifications, which rise as high as 5 meters in some cases, are often surrounded by deep ditches and defensive ramparts. The scale of the fortifications is not just a testament to the engineering skills of the people who built them, but also to the complex societal organization that must have been in place to support such ambitious construction projects. One of the most remarkable examples of this ancient defensive architecture is the Castro de Barogna, located on a dramatic cliffside along the coast of Galicia. Here, a series of stone walls rise from the rocky landscape, creating a network of defensive barriers that seem to flow with the natural topography. The settlement within these walls, believed to have been inhabited around the 1st century BC, features several roundhouses and circular structures, which would have been the living spaces for the people of the time. From this vantage point, it's easy to see how these forts were designed with both practicality and defense in mind. The fortifications offer a commanding view of the surrounding land and sea, allowing the inhabitants to spot potential threats from a great distance. Despite their imposing and functional design, much about the Castro culture remains shrouded in mystery. The people who built these fortifications are believed to be of Celtic origin, though they may have been influenced by a variety of surrounding cultures, including the Iberians and even the early Roman settlers. However, the exact nature of their society, their culture, and their eventual downfall is still not fully understood. Was the Castro culture a fully unified civilization, or was it composed of various small tribes that came together for mutual defense? What led to their eventual decline and the abandonment of their impressive fortresses? The Romans, upon their conquest of the region, left behind few detailed records of the Castro people. This lack of written documentation only deepens the mystery. The fortifications themselves provide some clues to the daily lives of the people who lived in these castros. The roundhouses found within the walls of the forts suggest that the Castro people lived in highly organized communities, where each house was likely a unit of extended families, each with its own specific tasks and responsibilities. The round shape of the homes, reminiscent of the Celtic roundhouses found across Europe, may have had symbolic or cultural significance, perhaps representing the cyclical nature of life or the connection between the earth and the heavens. The lack of traditional rectangular houses may also indicate a society that was in tune with nature and the landscape, embracing the natural world as a central part of their cultural identity. While many of the Castro fortifications were designed primarily for defense, there are elements of their design that suggest they also had symbolic or ritualistic significance. Some of the larger fortresses, such as the Castro de Santa Trega, contain structures that appear to have been used for religious or ceremonial purposes. The presence of stone altars, sacred spaces, and carvings that might represent the cosmos or the gods all point to a belief system that centered around the forces of nature and the spiritual world. Was the Castro culture a deeply religious society, with a pantheon of gods tied to natural forces such as the sun, moon, and earth? Or were their religious beliefs more animistic, centered around spirits that inhabited the land itself? As intriguing as the fortifications are, the mysteries surrounding the Castro culture extend far beyond their architectural achievements. One of the most puzzling aspects of their history is their sudden disappearance from the historical record. While some scholars suggest that the Roman invasion played a key role in the downfall of the Castro people, there is little concrete evidence to support this theory. It is possible that the Romans absorbed the Castro culture into their expanding empire, but there are also signs that the Castro people resisted Roman rule fiercely. Could there have been other factors that led to the abandonment of the fortifications and the eventual decline of the culture? Another mystery lies in the methods of construction. The impressive scale and precision with which these forts were built raises questions about the technologies available to the Castro people. How did they transport and manipulate the massive stones used in the construction of the walls and defensive structures? While it is believed that they used simple tools like stone hammers and wooden sledges, the size of the stones, many of which weigh several tons, suggests a level of engineering knowledge that goes beyond what would be expected of Iron Age societies. Could there have been advanced construction methods or tools lost to time, or was the effort simply the result of large-scale human labor? The ingenuity behind these fortifications suggests that the Castro people may have had a profound understanding of geometry, engineering, and the natural environment. One of the more speculative theories about the Castro culture and their fortifications involves the possibility of astronomical alignments. Some researchers have pointed out that certain Castro sites are oriented in ways that could align with key astronomical events, such as the solstices or the positions of certain stars. This has led to the idea that the Castro people may have had an intricate understanding of the heavens, and that their fortifications were not just defensive in nature, but also had a ritualistic or ceremonial role related to the cosmos. Could it be that the Castro forts were designed not only to protect the people from external threats, but also to serve as points of connection with the gods or the celestial forces they revered? In addition to the archaeological and astronomical questions, there is the question of the culture's social organization. While it is clear that the Castro people were organized into tightly knit communities, much of their internal hierarchy remains a mystery. Were the leaders of the Castro forts kings, chiefs, or something else entirely? The presence of defensive walls and the overall military structure of the forts suggests that the society was highly stratified, with an elite class that controlled the defense and organization of the community. But little is known about the actual social structure. Were there warrior classes, priests, merchants, or artisans? The lack of written records leaves us only with clues found in the ruins themselves. Despite these uncertainties, the Castro fortifications remain one of the most remarkable and enduring legacies of ancient Iberian culture. These structures are far more than mere ruins. They are a window into a civilization whose people were deeply connected to the land, the heavens, and the forces of nature. Whether used for defense, ritual, or something else entirely, the forts represent the complex and multifaceted nature of the Castro culture. Today, the Castro forts stand as silent sentinels on the landscape, reminders of a people whose history, while partially obscured by time, continues to captivate our imagination. What was the true purpose behind their fortifications? Was it purely defensive, or did these structures hold a deeper, more spiritual significance? As we continue to unearth more about the Castro culture and its mysterious fortifications, we are reminded that history is often not just a record of the past, but a puzzle that still waits to be solved, one stone at a time. What other secrets might these ancient Castro forts reveal as archaeologists continue to study their remnants? Could there be deeper, hidden meanings embedded within the walls, waiting for the right questions to be asked? The answers may still be hidden beneath the stones, waiting to be uncovered by future generations. Nestled on the edge of the Aegean coast in what is now Turkey, the ancient city of Priene stands as one of the most well-preserved examples of a Hellenistic city. A place that, while once thriving as a beacon of Greek culture, philosophy, and architecture, now lies in quiet ruins, waiting to tell its story. From the moment you step onto its sacred grounds, you're struck by the peaceful stillness, broken only by the soft breeze that sweeps over the site. The city's layout speaks volumes about its ancient inhabitants, its meticulous design, and its remarkable alignment with both natural geography and celestial events. Yet, much about Priene remains obscured, leaving archaeologists, historians, and curious minds alike to ponder the true story of its rise, its role in ancient society, and its eventual decline. Priene was a city founded long before the days of Alexander the Great, its history stretching back to at least the 8th century BC, but it flourished most prominently during the Hellenistic period in the 4th century BC. At the height of its power, Priene was known for its strategic location, sitting atop a hill with commanding views of the plains below and the nearby Meander River. The city's location offered both natural defense and a connection to the surrounding fertile lands, a setting that would have been crucial for its prosperity. And yet, despite its advantages, Priene's downfall came through the shifting tides of history, and now it offers us only whispers of its once great past. One of the most striking features of Priene is its urban planning. Unlike other ancient cities, Priene was designed with the scientific precision of a rational, organized mind. The city was laid out in a grid pattern, with streets running in strict lines, oriented toward the cardinal directions, a feature that became a hallmark of Hellenistic urbanism. The Greeks of Priene, like many others, had a deep understanding of symmetry and proportion, not only in architecture but in the very design of their cities. The layout of Priene has been called one of the finest examples of Hellenistic city planning, a blueprint that reflects a level of precision and thoughtfulness that is both awe-inspiring and mysterious. At the heart of the city lies the Great Theatre, one of the most remarkable structures still visible today. It stands in a semicircular shape, carved into the hillside, offering a panoramic view of the valley below. The theater's design, with its well-preserved seats and stage, is a testament to the cultural and artistic achievements of the Prienians, who gathered here to watch performances, discuss philosophy, and engage in civic matters. But, like many other aspects of the city, the theater is not just an artistic achievement. It is also a symbol of Priene's connection to something larger, its role in the Hellenistic world, and its relationship with the divine and the celestial. The city was also home to a remarkable temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, a site that reflects the city's reverence for the gods. The Temple of Athena at Priene was designed by the famed architect Pythias of Priene, one of the greatest architects of the ancient world. The temple, though now reduced to ruins, once boasted columns and intricate carvings that would have been visible from all parts of the city, a constant reminder of the divine power that was believed to oversee the community's well-being. But what is especially intriguing about the temple's design is its orientation. Much like the city itself, the temple was positioned with an almost meticulous alignment, pointing in a specific direction, possibly toward the rising or setting sun at certain times of the year. Was this a simple architectural choice, or did it hold some deeper, perhaps astronomical significance? Could it have been aligned with the movement of celestial bodies in a way that would have held religious or ritualistic importance for the people of Priene? Yet for all of its grandeur, the mysteries of Priene go beyond its architectural wonders. The city's precise and organized layout raises questions about the level of control the ancient Prienians must have had over their society. Was this an idealized version of urban planning, or was it reflective of the underlying tensions of Hellenistic society, a society that, despite its outward perfection, was deeply entrenched in conflict, conquest, and philosophical debate? How much of Priene's urban design was dictated by practical needs, and how much of it was a reflection of the philosophical ideals of the time? The Hellenistic era was one of great intellectual and political upheaval, and cities like Priene served as both symbols of progress and reminders of the fragility of such progress. In many ways, Priene's rise and fall mirror the trajectory of Hellenistic Greece itself. The city flourished under Greek influence but was later caught up in the expansion of the Roman Empire. By the 2nd century BC, Priene began to decline as the region was gradually incorporated into the growing power of Rome. Evidence suggests that the Meander River, which had long been the lifeblood of Priene's economy, shifted its course, leaving the city somewhat isolated and vulnerable. Was this the beginning of the end for Priene? Or were there other forces at play? Some scholars believe that Priene's decline was tied to larger shifts in power dynamics in the ancient world, including the Roman conquest and the shift from Greek to Roman dominance. But if the fate of Priene was largely dictated by external forces, there's another enigma that remains largely unsolved. Why was the city abandoned when it was? The city was not completely destroyed, but evidence suggests that it was slowly abandoned, with its population dispersing over time. The reasons behind this abandonment are not entirely clear. While the changing course of the Meander River might have contributed to the city's decline, could there have been other factors at play? Could political or economic instability have played a role in the city's eventual desertion? Or, as some suggest, was the abandonment of Priene a deliberate act, perhaps a response to an impending threat, or the result of a deep philosophical shift in the population that led them to forsake their city in favor of something else? Moreover, the discovery of inscriptions at Priene has raised questions about the role of the city in Greek philosophy and its connection to the famous philosophers of the era. One inscription mentions the famous philosopher Alexander of Aphrodisias, suggesting that Priene may have been home to a vibrant intellectual culture. But was this intellectual scene central to the city's identity, or were these philosophers merely passing through, as they did in many other Greek cities? Were the city's people as committed to the philosophical and spiritual pursuits as their Greek counterparts in Athens, or were there hidden elements of conflict beneath the outward appearance of intellectual sophistication? Another intriguing element of Priene is the architectural evolution seen in the layout of its buildings. The city's grid system was built to be as efficient and practical as possible, but there are signs that this organization was part of a larger philosophical worldview. The city's very design may have been a manifestation of the Hellenistic desire for order and balance, values that were central to Greek philosophy. Could Priene have been more than just a city? It may have been an embodiment of a deeper cosmological order, a reflection of the belief that the universe itself could be understood through the lens of mathematics and geometry? But perhaps the most thought-provoking mystery about Priene lies in its sudden obscurity. Today, the ruins of this great city sit in relative isolation. While it is a notable archaeological site, it is often overshadowed by the more famous ruins of places like Ephesus or Delphi. Why is it that Priene, a city so advanced in design and architecture, has remained somewhat forgotten by the world? Could the site's relative obscurity be tied to the fact that it was never truly abandoned in the way that other great cities were? Could there be something intentionally hidden within the remnants of this once great city? A buried secret, a lost artifact, or even a symbolic key to unlocking the deeper meaning of its history? Today, as we wander through the ancient streets of Priene, we are left with more questions than answers. The city's engineering brilliance, its connection to the divine, and its rise and fall all hint at a civilization that was far ahead of its time. Yet, much remains mysterious about this ancient city: the purpose behind its precise design, the fate of its people, and the deeper philosophical currents that may have guided its architects and inhabitants. As we reflect on the ruins of Priene, we can't help but wonder, what other secrets remain hidden beneath its foundations? What truths still lie buried in the soil of this ancient city, waiting for the right discovery to illuminate them? The Hellenistic city of Priene may no longer be a living, breathing metropolis, but its mysteries continue to pulse beneath the surface, inviting further exploration and speculation.